Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. Welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 480. Jerry Miller, alongside Johnny V. Lots of things going on in my head. I've been working out a few things, and if I'm going to be brutally honest, I won't get into all the details with you guys, but it's been a little bit wild. Coming back, I had an incredible time. I'll talk more at length about the PLO, the Phoenix Ladies Open that took place this weekend. I was out in Arizona for the last few days. Coming back to an exciting time this week where I am actually meeting with some land surveyors and some Parks Department people on Thursday to help finalize a design that they're looking to do some clearing for here in southeastern Wisconsin. This has, of course, been
This is a permanent design?
Yeah, this is a permanent design for an ongoing project now that's already more than a year into it. Everything moves a little bit slower than you would expect or hope for, but it's a course that's going to for sure be happening. However, they called me and gave me the options. They said, we'd love for you to come out here, kind of talk about the final design along with some surveyors and some people that are going to bid out the job to do some brush removal and clearing a little bit of some of the fairways, this very heavily wooded place. They said Wednesday or Thursday morning. And I was like, well, Wednesday morning is going to suck no matter what time it is. Thursday it is, 8 a.m., an hour away from where you live. I'm not a fan. You guys know me. I am.
The funny part is, it clearly doesn't matter Wednesday versus Thursday, because tomorrow night you're probably not going to be able to put yourself to bed in the right at a good time. You're going to be up just as late, maybe later
than tonight. I know that's the problem, but here we are.
You're a horrible human being, is what I'm saying, Terry.
That's exactly it. Well, one of the best humans. Well, and I don't know if it's just part of that Canada nice or all of those other things.
Well, when you compare him to us, it's definitely way up there.
Yes, he's going to elevate the politeness scale by 1,000. Joining us immediately here in the show, Thomas Gilbert. What's up, Thomas?
Hey, good. How about you guys?
Good. Some very mild conditions. I know you're down in the south. You're not in Canada right now, but
gorgeous here.
Mild conditions here in Wisconsin, pushing like the 50s.
Yeah, mid-50s. It's great.
You, however, you're not in Canada. Where are you?
Right now, I am in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I will be surrendering to the cold fairly soon here now.
Let's
do you have to go back for visa reasons, or are you just going back for holidays?
I'm just going back for time with my family and the holidays. I still have the 5-year visa, which I think doesn't end until 2028, because I had to renew it with Thought Space Athletics, and so I'm good. I could stay here until December 31st, 2028, but of course I want to still go home, see family and friends and all that stuff.
How much, and I remember talking about that at length with you, because you could, I think it was exactly 6 months you could spend here in the U.S., and then you had to have time in Canada, and you had to really manipulate and maneuver like down to the day, where you were in terms. How much of that stress has been relieved in this new visa situation? Maybe explain it. Give a quick recap to somebody that doesn't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, so with this new visa, I don't have any kind of restrictions. I just have to make sure that every time I enter and exit the country that I declare my visa at the border, and that allows me to stay for the full length of time, 365 days a year if I really wanted to. And before, I was very much having to try to schedule my time to fit it within 6 months, with our lengthy tour schedule starting from February and ending in October.
And you're essentially treated then, is it considered is it a sports visa? Is it a work visa? How did they make those distinctions? Especially as you just mentioned, Thought Space being one of your primary sponsors, how does that all get worked in?
Yeah, so basically it is a performance athlete work visa. So I am specifically here to work underneath Thought Space, who is a U.S. employer, and I work for them as an employee basically, and get my visa under that. But it just so happens that I'm doing sports athletics as that work for them.
Okay. Now, again, Just when I think we're going to get to the real meat and potatoes, we have to tangent.
Yeah.
Where are you in terms of your sponsorship agreement with ThoughtSpace, and does that at all? Is there any? Do they kind of have an extra carrot to dangle to keep you for an X amount of years because of this? Is that directly tied to them? Let's just play pretend and say next year you went to some other sponsor. Would some other sponsor have to step in and take on a different role, or is this visa good as long as you're doing the same work?
So no, yeah. If I want to continue my 5-year visa, I would continue having to work under ThoughtSpace for the full 5 years.
Okay.
So even though it's still currently a 2-year contract, I would be hoping to continue to work with ThoughtSpace if they'll have me for the next 5 years.
Okay. So that kind of answers or maybe quells that question of what are your sponsorship agreements and plans and all that kind of looking like in terms of at least the next few years.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the one of the main reasons, and it's always great to catch up with you. We don't have to have a reason. However, this weekend, something that was kind of like quietly on the radar was the World Flying Disc Federation, WFDF as we usually call it, Pan American Team Disc Golf Championship in Langley Pond Disc Golf Park in Warrenville, South Carolina. I'm just going to get all the words in.
Yeah.
What in the world am I talking about? Give it to us.
Yeah, so this is this was the inaugural Pan American Team Championship. First time it's ever been held. It stems kind of from the World Flying Disc Federation's World's Team Championship that's been happening since 2015, and so it's a team-based event. You have 6 players from each country represented there, with a couple alternates as well, usually about 3 alternates. And you have 3 MPO players, 2 FPO players, and then a Masters player, MP40 player that you have for your team. And it is match play through and through. You have a mix of singles matches, so just one-on-one, one person from a country against another person from a country, and also doubles, but played as alternate shot.
Doubles played as alternate shot. Okay. Doubles, mixed doubles, or
all the above. There's FPO doubles, there's mixed doubles, there's MPO with MP40. That's like all the above. So
you played like 300 holes of golf this weekend, or what? Are these often 9-hole, 12-hole, 18-hole matches?
Yeah, I played 5 rounds this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think everyone played 5 rounds.
All right, 5 rounds of 18 over the 3 days.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's considerable golf. Now, for people like me who aren't necessarily familiar with that course or the property, A, how was it selected, and then B, tell us about the actual property and the course.
Yeah, so it kind of all originated. This event was supposed to be held at the IDGC. I believe we were going to play WR Jackson for the entire event, but obviously with all the news of the pine beetle there, they were no longer able to hold the event at that property. So they contacted the PDGA, who was quick on their feet to be like, hey, we have this like really nice course 25 minutes away, 15 minutes away from Augusta. So if we can switch it to there, I think it's a good fit. And actually, I think it worked out maybe better, and maybe it's just because I have a lot of experience on WR Jackson, so it was like a nice, refreshing new course for me. But I think this course like suited the overall like skill level of the field a lot better, and then made it a lot more interesting for match play. Beautiful course, Langley Pond, and Warrenville, South Carolina. If you haven't checked it out, it's honestly one of my favorite courses I've probably played.
That says a lot, because obviously you're well-traveled, play some of the best courses on the planet. What how would you describe what's the course play like, or maybe in that vein, like what would you compare it to? Yeah,
so I would actually kind of compare it on a little bit to some of the courses at IDGC. Obviously, it's very similar terrain being so close together, but it had like 4 holes of like little water carries, which was obviously really beautiful. Langley Pond, which is more the size of a lake, created like some pretty spectacular views, and as well just the shot variety on the course was really good. It had a lot of mix of distances and shapes on the fairways, so I think just like really creative, had good elevation change, so kind of hit all the boxes you're trying to check off when finding a good course.
And I'm kind of looking through a few of the schedule and format. I think there's a PDF that was out there. Charlie Mead is listed as the WIFDIF chair disc golf committee. Was he there in a capacity of like as a tournament director or oversight, or who's all involved? Charlie, we know, I've known for many years, also just inducted in the Hall of Fame, so he may be a little more of a household name to some than others, but when it was all said and done, like who was running the show?
So Charlie was pretty much offshore. He was helping behind the scenes. He was back in England, but Craig Sheether, who was the tournament director on site, and as well as a couple of the people from the PDGA. I know Sid was there quite a bit, helping set up and do stuff, and then also Mike Downs and Brian were all there helping out throughout the weekend. So PDGA helped out a bunch, but Craig really kind of put this event together. He helped coordinate through all the teams and really kind of helped things run smooth.
Which brings my next question. You described the divisions. How did the team members get selected? Were they appointed? Did you guys apply? Like, how in the world did that team get assembled?
Yeah, so from my understanding, at least for Team Canada, because I'm not sure if the selection was different for all the teams, I believe they pretty much kind of went through rating. So the highest players and kind of went down the list. Obviously, being in the States, it was difficult for some of the high-rated players in Canada to be able to attend. But they, pretty much sent out invites to a whole bunch of competitors and kind of went down the list to pick out their roster. And they had a few alternates that had to sub in late, because I know Casey Hannemeyer from BC and also Max Vergetnig, who's half Canadian, half Swedish. He resides in BC now and wasn't able to attend either. But it kind of just went down the list from there, and a few really solid people were able to fill in the spots, which made a good team.
And then I guess a real basic question is, how often this was the inaugural, how often is this anticipated to take place? This isn't every year, is it, moving forward? Or is that the plan?
So the Pan Am Games are kind of like the Olympics. I believe it's every 4 years.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're going to follow that structure of the actual Pan Am Games, or if they're going to do like a biannual Pan Am Championship. I know that the World Team Championships, which is held the exact same way, same format, same kind of coordinators, is every single year. So this year they had it out in Croatia, I believe in August. And then actually next year, which I'm pretty excited about myself, is going to be in Perth, Australia in early November.
Really?
Terry's getting ideas over here?
Yeah.
Book those flights early, Terry.
Anything is possible. I know the one in Croatia. I talked to Dinko, who was one of the main organizers over there in Croatia, and one of my favorite humans over there. He had originally brought it up a few years ago, the idea of hosting it there, and I saw obviously a lot of our U.S. contingency really enjoying the time, which didn't surprise me. That's awesome. And then I've been to Australia, and I wasn't in Perth or in Western Australia, so anything could happen. And I like it because I know they do the Australian Championships usually at the end of the month as well. So if you're going to be there, make the most of it.
The Australian Championships and as well Aussie Open is going to return, which I think is going to be actually the week or maybe 2 weeks before the WIFDIF Team Championship. So they're kind of like planning to tie these events all together.
Yeah, makes
a
perfect
bundle
sense.
package.
I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense, especially when you're looking to get people to come a long distance and then, host a few events around that time frame. That's exactly, obviously, what Southeast Asia has been doing or will be doing as well this year with 6 or 8 straight weeks in a row of various events happening all over.
Mhm.
Now, in terms of, you got the team, I understand the selection, that all sounds awesome, but this largely is camaraderie and bragging rights more than a massive
Yes.
paycheck. Is that a fair statement? Is there any money involved?
No money involved. It's just bragging rights, being able to kind of represent your country and be part of this event. I think that's the real hook of it for all the competitors, is just being able to really like stand it, because this is very different. It was completely team based almost the entire way through, match play format, and so it's a whole different type of like competition, and so it was much more based, like it felt more representative of my country than any other event that I've even been at before.
And I was going to say, do you know if there was someone asked on the board, and these events are usually very difficult to film, was there any post-production out there? Was somebody filming anything for any highlights or anything like that, do you know of?
No, I know PDJ was out there doing media, so they have a bunch of pictures and as well, I think, a few little video clips. I'm not sure how much they took or if they're going to release it. There's a few things that they've kind of posted up on Instagram and whatnot, but I don't think, no, there's no post-production or anything that's going to be covering any of the rounds.
And it didn't really happen. I mean, does a tournament, if a tournament doesn't have live or post, Johnny might be able to even put the teams up on screen here as we continue to talk to you. There is something that's so incredibly exciting, and I think that's most team events in general aren't going to be a huge financial gain, no matter what they are, whether it's the Southwest Team Invitational here in the U.S. or an event like this. Just in general, that doesn't seem to be the main focus or goal of these team events. So the fact that it wasn't is not only pretty normal, but I just, even looking at the pictures, just literally scrolling and looking at the pictures, everybody in their country represented
nice team shirts. I really like them.
Yeah, polos and outfits. Great. Everyone looks sharp, and there's just like a special bond that you'll probably have, not only with the people from your own country, of course, but even just with the people that you played against. Like this is pretty damn cool.
I'm not gonna lie, I'd go with Colombia's shirt over anybody.
Yeah, I know they looked really sharp. They had like hidden in the design of the shirts, they had like Columbia down the back and disc golf across the chest, and so it was a really sharp jersey.
Yeah.
Now I can say I saw this as well, that in like some other sporting activities or sporting events and competitions, I saw a few jerseys get exchanged. Did you partake? And they had names on them. So did you partake?
I did, yeah. So I swapped my white jersey with one of the players on Team USA, and so I have their jersey as well. Canada, I guess I don't know if they planned it ahead, but they did 2 jerseys, so I still have one of my sets of jerseys from Canada.
Now, and whether you call it modest or not, coming in on paper, did you feel like Canada had the best team of the 3?
I would say it was pretty even between Canada and US. I think based on like rating averages, US had a little bit of a notch up on Canada. And they had a great team too. They obviously didn't have their biggest guns, the tour players that you're commonly thinking representing the States, but they had Johnny McRae and Ryan Mulder, Ray Hill, like a bunch of really solid players that definitely put up a good fight. I mean, the actual points before the medal matches was very, very close. I think U.S. had 34 points to 32 for Canada. So it was a very, very tight battle until that final medal match.
Yeah, it's like I said, I don't know how, maybe my head was just in the sand, but I felt like this kind of came up out of nowhere, happened, and then I was like, wait, what's going on? And that's why I was so excited, and I really appreciate you joining us tonight, because it just feels like there could have been even more about it, especially being on a quote unquote off week of the tour. Do you feel like a lot of people knew what was happening, or not necessarily, or did this kind of surprise us all?
I would say most people, like most disc golfers and disc golf fans, didn't know about this event even existing until PDJ started putting out a few articles and a few pieces of media about it, which wasn't until the event started. So unless you knew somebody in the event or somehow like popped up with one of the Whiff Diff articles, like it was very much under the radar until it started happening.
Yeah, I saw something about it just a few days ago, and then I forgot about it until I was scrolling through social media, and I believe I saw a post from you on Instagram, and I was like, oh, that's right, that's going on this weekend. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw Johnny McRae, actually. That's where I originally saw it. He was saying how he was getting ready to go do team captaining. I think he posted that last week, getting up there. So that was where I think that's where I first saw it on social media.
Like, what? Yes. What's happening?
Yeah.
Where?
I know. I saw it and I was like, what is that? And then when he said Pan American, I'm like, oh, that's right. That's I have heard of that.
Yeah, yeah. What if anything? And maybe this is even getting a little nitpicky, and that's fine. But what if anything would you change about it, or enhance, or slightly alter? To make the experience even better, or did you feel like it really just hit the mark?
I mean, I kind of feel like it hit the mark. Maybe the weather. I mean, if I'm being real picky, could have been nicer. But like, I think the course, the teams were fun. Obviously, it'd be really cool to see some more representation from like the top players of both Canada and the U.S. Like, I mean, now they don't need to send like the top 5 players in tour rankings or something, but like, I mean, definitely would have been fun to see just some big names there that would draw some more attention to the event.
Yeah, and I continue to think. I think of a lot of state games, including the Badger State games here in Wisconsin. For many years, for more than 2 decades, had disc golf, got introduced relatively early. We're very thankful for that. And it was there. And then I got it into the Senior Olympics many years later. However, we've become so competitive. We've become so cutthroat that often players are like, what? I can't even.
There's no cash.
I can't even win $100. Like, then sometimes they're like, I'm still good with keeping in my off season routine here. So we'll see if that we can find a way to attract some of those players. But it's also what I do love though too is, I mean, I kind of look at it like the Olympics, where in a lot of the sports we don't have our top professional athletes representing that sport. And then you get to see, all these other up and coming super bright stars that fill in that are, then we become a little bit more familiar with them. So we'd love to hear of the people you saw and played against. Now, clearly we know most of the U.S. players, but is there someone that you saw this weekend, FPO or MPO or MP40, that's like, hey, they're thinking about touring, and or hey guys, keep this name in the back of your head because you might see them at a Worlds or something like that. Is there anyone that kind of jumped out at you in that way?
I would say so. Yeah, I think 2 that kind of pop into my head. Ryan Mulder, he's kind of been on and off the tour a little bit from the States, but young kid, I think he's 16. So just one of those new up-and-comer, just shredders. Like, he played very good. He beat me in the second day matchup, like straight-up singles, and so he definitely has game. Like, he put on one of the best putting performances I've seen all year.
Wow.
And it was extremely impressive. So I definitely think you can probably look forward to seeing his name somewhere in the leaderboards on the tour next year. I know he's still kind of in that trapped like May till end of August, beginning of September frame because of still being in high school.
Pesky school stuff, high school stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But as well from Canada, Sophia, she's a fantastic FPO player who's only been playing, I think, for 2 years.
Wow.
And I think she's 915 rated at the moment, and looking to hopefully play more events and as well potentially make her way up to playing a potential like tour events, like ones that are local. She's in BC, in Victoria, so she will hopefully maybe make it up for some of those West Coast events.
Very nice. Yeah, and for those that maybe didn't know, Ryan obviously has done some work here. The only time he's played advanced this year were at the two majors, so to speak, that were AM exclusive majors, in that he won the US ADGC over at the Toboggan. He won AM Nats this year, and then he took 7th at AM Worlds just a couple weeks later. That was a really quick turnaround, but he took 7th at AM Worlds, and he also won the skill shot at AM Worlds, and he took 7th in putting and 4th in the long drive. And I've heard nothing but just how skilled he is and how dedicated. And then at the end of the day, it turns out he's this incredible human and this really great kid on top of it. So, we're certainly going to be seeing and hearing from him plenty more as time goes on. That's for sure. But interesting to see that it looked like he declined cash at the 21st annual at the Homie doubles in September, and it looks like he may have declined cash 2 other times. So that's interesting.
I talked to him at the event, and I think he had said something along the lines that the next MPO event that he plays, he'll be able to accept cash. I don't know if there was maybe like the NADGT.
No, I didn't see that in there, but I was just going to say maybe there's like, is he strategically planning a legit rookie season kind of thing?
That would make sense. Yeah,
so if he doesn't take any cash this year and then starts off next year,
but that would be a rookie season for him and possibly win Rookie of the Year.
I think that's what he's on to.
These kids are too smart. I wouldn't have thought of anything like that.
You went to cash either.
Well, no.
You would have had these problems.
I don't have the problems of thinking, Rookie of the Year. Hey, listen, if Juliana can do it, I can do it. I'm just
true. 20 years later, that's a good point. That's a very good point there. So, well, that's awesome to see. And again, the camaraderie, the just the overall presence of knowing you guys are with those 16, 18, 20 people for the weekend, pretty much in some capacity. Were there any off-course activities or games or individual team stuff or collectively as a group? What were some of the extracurriculars?
So nothing really revolving around the event, but we had like a big team dinner with just all the teams. Nice. Went out and pretty much took out the entire back section of a restaurant and all socialized there. Did a little bit of like musical chairs to get to kind of talk to everybody, and as well throughout the entire weekend, everyone was extremely like caring and sociable. We all had like, it's part of the team tradition, I guess, to give out little like trinkets from each country. So like Canada made up these little packs of maple syrup and instant Tim Hortons coffee and little pins and whatnot. So
just leaning right into those stereotypes, right?
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Are those
the more stereotypical, the better, I think.
Yep. Okay.
So yeah, that's what we gave out. Columbia gave out some really nice little like bracelets and some homemade like guava fruit candy. It was really, really good. And then US gave out a few other little treats as well from some of the spots.
Very cool. Yeah, that's something else that Johnny and I learned, and I would love to see materialize even more, is just overall international play. Like going to Japan in 2008 and 2010, like you when you got to the card, often it was a Japanese competitor that would be the first to come up and then hand you some kind of small gift, whether it's a mini or a keychain or something of that nature. And I've always thought, like, anytime you go international, you got to always have something that you can possibly, not that you need to exchange, but at least be able to give away to other people on the card. I love it.
For sure.
So you're winding down, And one of the staples that's been part of your tour life and your overall career for these last few years and escaping the cold has all been a little bit of a Florida swing of sorts. You and I have spent some time down there, and the Florida swing come November and December is more real than ever before.
Yeah.
In fact, it feels like they're always happening. This year, is it just Canada and relaxing, or what's kind of your game plan?
Yeah, so I won't be doing the big like 8-tier swing that they got going on right now. I think there's like 4 8-tiers left down in Florida to wrap up the season. I won't be participating in any of those this year. Just kind of, I don't know. Last year, I think it went a little bit too crazy and tried to like play it all out, and I think this year just kind of taking it a little bit easier, just like winding down for the season and letting it be an off season. Is also kind of nice, but then still have plans to go down there early January and pretty much use that to kind of ramp up into the actual touring part of the season. And it's nice, particularly because it starts down there next year.
Yeah, for those that have, kind of settled into that general vicinity, I think of obviously the Oakleys and Page and the Gannons and, everybody just kind of, and then Charlotte and such also not too far away. It's clearly going to be a pretty hot spot for people to be, obviously Macbeths and others that are already down there in Florida. And I know Jessica and Double G have decided that that's their spot as opposed to being out in California. So clearly plenty of opportunities. What is the Canada scene like come winter time? Do people embrace it and go out, or does golf kind of like unofficially halt?
I mean, it definitely slows down. Like the really hardy players, I think, still continue to play. There's little winter leagues and stuff that you can still attend. Obviously, it's not bringing dozens of people like the summer leagues do, but usually a group of like maybe 10 people will get out and go truck through the snow and still enjoy the course. But putting leagues are a lot more common. I know a bunch of putting leagues start out right about this time of year, as well as some like little tiny indoor events that people can enjoy. But I know that I still go out there pretty much all the time throughout the winter and try to make the most of it. I'm lucky I have a giant frozen lake out in front of my parents' property, and so I'll actually do my so-called like quote-unquote field work out on the ice. I'll just put on some like ice grippers and go throw it on there.
Yeah, I was gonna say you call it field work, or some would call it field work, and you have to call it like lake work or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
A very unique perspective for sure. A few months ago, we were talking about an event going on out in BC and in Canada, way out on the West Coast, of course. But if you were to describe, and clearly you have maybe either I'll call it a bias or an insight, or both. Mm-hmm. How would you describe the Canadian disc golf scene right now, and compared to say even 5 years ago?
I mean, it's definitely grown exponentially since because I've been in the sport now about 7 years. So 5 years ago, it was just a few little courses and not much of a scene there. Like you kind of felt like you knew everybody once you kind of played on the scene. But now every time I go back home, it's like I have twice as many people to meet and interact with as I did when I left. So it's growing like crazy. Courses are being put in left and right. And as well, I think the cross-country sport of disc golf has really grown a lot, where it was kind of like, okay, you're either Vancouver, like GTA, or like kind of in the Maritimes, a few little hot spots. But now like Quebec's got a really good scene. I know like mid-Canada, Manitoba, Alberta, Calgary has like a whole bunch of different little scenes that they have grown up quite a bit, and as well just like really have seen the development. I would say it's still probably about 2 to 3 years behind kind of where the scene is in the U.S. Just
Okay.
because like tournament sizes are still not quite there. They're still working up to getting like similar amount of A tiers for the areas that they're in, and then as well, like this year we saw the first Silver Series up in Canada, the Discmania Open, and as well trying to grow that presence as well, create more elite level courses to hopefully host more big events in the future.
What are some of the challenges? I mean, obviously, there's always this comparison to what's happening down here in the U.S. with so many more people and so many more courses. But what are some of the challenges that either a tournament director or some of the players face when either trying to run or find big events? Is there any universal challenge, or is it the same as what we have here?
I think it's similar. I think right now the places are kind of limited because like you kind of can't just run an A tier in this small town and have people easily be able to travel there. Where I think in the U.S., like almost anywhere, you can find people within like a 3-4 hour drive that will still kind of flock to that area. Where in Canada, there's really only a couple spots that are kind of set to host like a big A tier event like that, where they have enough players and enough people to support the event to really make it successful. So I think that's kind of challenging just because in Canada, our population is so condensed into these little small areas and cities and parts of the country, where US, it's definitely more widespread.
So when we look at some of those possibilities, do you feel that is there any distinction or push for a private facility, like someone with their own property in their own backyard, like a Maple Hill, those types of scenarios, or like a lot of Maine? Or are you guys still in a position where, hey, there's plenty of public land that, municipalities are excited to have us on? Or is there any difference whatsoever in those two approaches for you guys?
I would say it's still about half and half. I know there's a lot of development. People getting ideas like, hey, like this could actually be a successful like business. Opening like a private course and running big events on it. I know there's, I think, been like 2 or 3 big events in the last year that I can remember where I was on like a new privatized course instead of just one of the better public like park courses that we have. So I think like that's definitely on the rise, and looking to develop some better facilities to be able to host events like that in the future. But yeah, I would say it's continuing to kind of grow along with all the rest of disc golf in Canada.
So knowing that I haven't filmed or played in Canada, and
Really?
clearly it's going to have to happen here at some point, hopefully more than
Absolutely.
once. Where should I be looking or hoping that somebody's going to give me that call and say, hey, can you come out here for a weekend? Or who's maybe the most likely to, look into having that event with that coverage, large scale, medium scale, whatever the case is? What are the events or the organizers or courses that might do that?
Yeah, I would say there's a few events out in BC, like the BC Open is one that's always trying to, I think, push to get better. It's been an event for the last probably like 5 or so years now. That's continued to be an A tier and get a little bit bigger. I know Discmania, or sorry, not Discmania. The Diameter Open is an event that's going to be between D-Glow and the like northeast swing of Green Mountain and Maple Hill, and they're really hoping that that weekend being placed there will hopefully attract some of the touring pros that come up and try to just run a good event there. I know a lot of people cut through Canada to go to Worlds this year, and it is 7 minutes off of that route. So they're really hoping that people will just kind of settle in and play that tournament that week. So perhaps that's another one that you're going to see want to try to draw some attention and maybe get some media out there as well. So those are kind of the main ones. Obviously, PEI is another really good spot that I don't know if there's anything planned currently as in like big events for next season, but that's always a hot spot too.
Do you feel like it's Is it the location, or is it the timing, or any other hurdle or obstacle for why we're not seeing more players go play up there? What would you attribute that to, if anything?
I think it's honestly just the location for the most part. Like, to travel up, because it's usually not just an easy little stop in Canada and then come back down and to the U.S. tour. It's very rare that they're actually that close in distance together. Like I said, in Portland, there, and like that kind of like upper West Coast, Pacific Northwest, there's a few events in that same time frame that you could potentially pop up and play, and I think a few players have in the past, but in the most part, it just hasn't really fit that well. So that's why I'm hoping the Diameter Open will be potentially one that people want to play, because it's on that route that people took last year. So that's encouraging, but yeah, I think that's the biggest struggle for most people.
I'll play dumb. I'll try to. I'll play dumb for a moment. How difficult is it for most of the Americans to get in and out? And is that at all a deterrent in terms of getting in and out of the country for anything at the border?
Yeah, I think for a lot of them, it's just something new, something that they're not really used to doing is crossing that border. So it's kind of like almost a little hurdle that you have to just jump over to commit to doing it. Like, it's a really easy process. Like, really just bring your passport if you have it. I know there is some touring pros out there that still haven't renewed their passport or gotten their passport, and so that restricts a few of them. But I think a lot of them just is like, do I have to really cross the border? That's so much work. I'm just gonna skip this one.
Sure.
And it's like, oh man, you guys are missing some of the fun events that you could potentially be playing up there.
Yeah, that's what I would think too. Just a little. It's just a fact that it's something new. You get mildly apprehensive, and then all of a sudden you start imagining all the worst case scenarios of being stuck there, not being able to leave, or getting kicked out permanently. Everything in between. I'm sure all of those thoughts probably come to mind when going up there. So I'm excited to make it happen. I don't know where or when. I've had a few communications with a few of the different events throughout the years, but I certainly would love to find a way to make it happen. Some of the Canadians that we most often see, in addition to yourself, Martin and Sandy Hendel, are there others that we see often that are coming down, or that maybe you expect to come down more in 2024?
I know Casey Hannemeyer. He's popped on and off of the tour a little bit here and there. Obviously, Miss Frisbee's Chantal Badinsky. She's obviously kind of committed to doing more of a tour, and I think is planning to continue that next year. Obviously, she had that big splash at Rochester, getting that Silver Series win, and that was really, really awesome for her. And then a couple new players that might pop down. I think Joe Vanderveen is one of the players who's really hoping to play a couple tour events. Kaylin Schatt is another player that has those like big aspirations to come and play the tour events, and they're both very good players. I think Joe is like 997, like so right on that 1,000 threshold, and I think Kaylin's up in the high 980s. So, and there's lots of young talent that's kind of emerging or starting to emerge up in Canada who will just kind of take a year or two to really be able to push and make it to one of these tour stops. And hopefully the new qualifier format for tour card and stuff might make it possible for some of them to weasel their way into a tour card spot next year.
No, that hasn't been announced yet. Can't say anything.
Oh, well, I'm hopeful that it's a thing.
There's been enough hints and slip-ups from people of the Q series that it should be announced relatively soon, I think.
When you're talking about up-and-comers and maybe even just flat-out younger players, how is disc golf revered and looked upon in terms of whether it's the school systems or other recreational outlets and such? Like, how is disc golf generally revered, I guess is the best word.
I think pretty solid. Like it's definitely recognized as like a sport, like that is kind of well known within majority of households in Canada. I'd say almost every kind of random person that like kind of asks about what I do, it's like, oh yeah, like this frisbee sport, like you might not have heard of it. It's called disc golf. It's like, oh yeah, I know disc golf. I've seen them in the park, or a lot of them have like seen it on like little highlight clips and whatnot. So I think it's the recognizability is getting up there pretty good, and I think it still will take a little bit for it to be like fully professionally recognized. But I think definitely knowledge as like a common sport is where we're at right now.
Okay. It's always funny to describe disc golf. And like you said, it's grown so much in the US where it went from just 10, maybe 15 years ago to be like, what? Like disco golf, or like people having no idea what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
To now, like you said, quite a few people at least having some semblance or some idea.
Having it on CBS,
Yeah,
ESPN,
exactly.
as we're seeing.
Yeah, those types of things. And then you go to your places like Finland or Estonia, and everybody, knows what you're talking about. It feels like when you're over there. And it's interesting to see as these entire countries, learn to eventually embrace it in some capacity. So, I was talking about others coming in 2024. One of my stock questions, though, is if you laid out, or when you lay out your 2024 calendar, will there be anything surprising to someone like me or Johnny who's like, oh, he's doing what? What weekend? Like, is there anything kind of out of the ordinary, or should we expect a pretty standard looking tour for you next year?
I think the biggest kind of change up for me next year will be, I think I'm going to kind of move away from prioritizing some of the Pro Tour events. And I think beginning of my season should look pretty standard, I think up until Jonesboro. And then from there on, it's kind of a mix-up right now between Canadian events and European events. So I really want to try to prolong my stay in Europe this year, just because I really enjoyed that at all the Euro tours that I played out there, and is now part of the DGPT Europe tour, I guess, that they're doing out there. And so there's even a little bit more incentive to play those events too. And I think, just not really worrying as much about like I had to play every single Elite Series to try to get every point possible. I think that really like kind of clouded my judgment of what events I wanted to play and what events I enjoyed playing. And so I'm going to definitely be a little more free with my schedule to go play the events that I think are going to be really worthwhile.
Yeah, you actually had a slightly longer stay in Europe than many others. You got there a couple weeks before everybody, and played a few extra events, I thought, this past year.
Yeah.
So it must have stuck with you then. So
it definitely did. Yeah.
Looking at specifically at your calendar, we see Euro Tour 4, the Swedish Open, Skellefteå, number 5, PCS, of course, was number 6, the European Open. Then you stayed for the Åland Open, and then you went right to Canada from there. I mean, you didn't play disc golf in the U.S. for almost 3 months or so, when it was all, or 2.5 months. And that was probably one of your longest stints of not being here or playing here, right? When you think about it. So clearly, do you feel, I love how you just described it. Do you feel like that might become
more common?
More appealing to more players? And if so, why? Like, what about it should make it appealing to more players?
I think the biggest appeal to it is that it's new. Like, I think a lot of the players that have been on the tour for the last like 4 or 5 years have kind of played those same events for those same 4 or 5 years, are kind of just looking for something new and exciting to play. And I know a lot of people that even just went to PCS and European Open were like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I got to try it. Like, Paul knew what he was doing by playing the whole entire Euro Tour. And so a lot of people were saying that they're going to have a more extended European trip this year.
It'll be interesting to see how that affects the U.S. tour. You know, are we?
That's true.
It's going to shuffle things if we see a small or a medium-sized portion of our players head over to Europe. That's going to change the dynamic of the tour finale, who gets in, the number of points that are had here. I mean, I'll be really curious to see how this all plays out over the next year.
Definitely.
And along those lines, not only is it new, you're seeing these majestic places. I don't know if you find a more beautiful, set of views than you do when you're in Norway. I've said that now to everyone after touring a lot of those countries. How much of your branding and those experiences, maybe from a more business-like perspective, does that motivate you at all, or is that going to motivate some of the others, possibly in addition to the life experiences, but also maybe from a branding and PR perspective?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's good to kind of spread yourself out and really get that representation all over. I think also another thing that I kind of noticed in the last 2 years of going to Europe was it was a bit easier to get on coverage in Europe. Obviously, if a lot of players are going to be doing the same kind of thing this year and have the same idea to plan, so it's going to get more competitive. But for me, in the US, I was maybe getting like 6 to 8 rounds in like the season on like Jomez or Gatekeeper, one of those coverages. But in Europe, I was on it, I think, almost every tournament in 2022, and then I think in like 3 different tournaments here in 2023. So it definitely was worthwhile in that sense, just to get a little bit more recognition on the media side of things as well, and help boost my brand and all that kind of stuff too.
And certainly the nicest way you could say that you're poning those bitches over there. Kicking their asses.
Really? No, I only won a single event in the 2 years. So.
Don't start an international thing between Canada and Europe, Terry. We don't need any more international issues.
Could there ever be such a fight as like Canada and I don't know, Switzerland? I don't think that's even humanly possible, or Sweden or something like that. I can only imagine. Of course, I know that's not where you're getting at, but it is great to see. And then we're also, I mean, and that's kind of twofold, honestly. We see some of these, bigger household, more recognizable names are offered on coverage, and then sometimes that helps in turn build that media brand. Like when you and a couple other well-known names are then featured, and then all of a sudden that hits within the U.S. Next thing you know, we're clicking possibly on a channel that necessarily maybe wouldn't get the exposure in the first place. Because it's often just our European or international players who aren't as well known. So it's kind of funny how like indirectly you're getting on more coverage, but then you're possibly also helping maybe a smaller media channel get its feet under itself, or just continue to grow, or whatever the case might be. It's really cool how that can all transpire, I suppose. Well, I love it, and I think that's definitely going to be the future, is finding more and more of our players that want those life experiences, and
disc golf is getting to the point now where they can afford it. 5, 6, 7 years ago, a flight to Europe, a $1,500 flight to Europe and back, that was almost a deal breaker. Plus, then you're thinking of maybe if you're lucky, you're couch surfing, but you don't know. You probably have to rent a vehicle like that. And the payouts weren't that good. So you knew it was a losing. It's probably still not necessarily a financial gain to head over there, but you are now, at least maybe you're lucky if you kind of almost break even, as opposed to just 5 years ago, it was just a deficit. Hands down, you were going to drop $5,000 probably, and that might not have worked out for your tour life when you made $15,000 in a year. So
for sure.
How's that Canadian dollar? How does that Canadian dollar exchange rate work out for you? Is it in your favor?
Oh no, not right now. Right now it's I think $1.37 for every US dollar. So yeah, not great right now.
Okay. Anything else? I know we asked about, and it's great to get that insight about what the tour might look like. Any other surprises or out of the ordinary for you in 2024? touring vehicle, who you're touring with, any other major sponsorships, outside of maybe what you're throwing. Is there anything else that you can share with us, that, or any other insights or projects that are in store for 2024?
Honestly, not too much. I think majority of it's going to pretty much stay the same and similar to this year. One thing that I'll kind of plug, I guess, is Black Friday release for Thought Space Athletics. They have the new Numa coming out, which is a signature putter that I helped design and create. So that's going to be really exciting to have that disc in the hands of more people. So that I'm definitely stoked about. I guess that's kind of more the end of this year, but yeah, excited for that for sure.
What were some of the things that were most, like, when you go to the drawing board about a putter that you love and that you're helping design and that you want to, fully embrace and put your name on? What are some of the things that you were looking for?
Biggest thing was definitely just hand feel. Something that I can put in my hand and just immediately feels comfortable. I kind of give that advice to most people when I talking about just like selecting a putter. You can putt the KC AVR because Calvin uses it and he's really good, but I think personally the advice that I give everyone is grab the putter that feels the most comfortable in your hand, and that's going to be what's going to translate to being most comfortable making putts on the green. So I definitely went for hand feel, the nose angle, the shape of the rim, the bead on the bottom, all those kind of really helped fit my grip on a putter, and I hope as well a lot of people will share that love for that feel on this particular disc.
How about the overall either plastic and or rigidity or stiffness to it, and then smooth versus gritty? Like, if we're going to get into hand feel and comfort, what are some of those other components on the disc that you like for a putter?
Yeah, definitely kind of grippy plastic. I used to putt with the Yeti AVR when I was on Innova, the 300 PA3 when I was on Prodigy, and so like kind of that slightly tackier plastic that you can really get good spin on, because I am a spin putter, so I like to kind of have that grip from my fingertips that I can apply onto the disc, and as well, not super stiff like a KC or like a crazy tough putter would be, but also not crazy soft like I don't know, it's a JK AVR or one of the super soft judges or something like that.
Blowfly.
It's a nice kind of blowfly. That's really getting to the extremes, but yeah, definitely something just in the middle that feels good and comfortable, like not going to wobble around, but also not feel like a brick in my hand.
Excellent. That's got to be exciting, and I think that also is becoming more and more commonplace with our players, and I love watching them lean into it in terms of exactly what they want to see in a disc, whether it's a signature model or just a signature version of a common model, and saying, hey, here's how firm I like it, here's the plastic type, and here's any other adjustments that I like to see on the disc, and I think that's awesome to see. So congratulations very much so on that.
Thank
you. If someone had a company doing X, and you're thinking, man, I'd love a company for X, what might that be? And I guess what I'm saying is shoes, bags, hats, like you name it, and maybe probably something maybe you don't already have, unless you're looking to swap sponsors right now and make that rude announcement. Like, I hate the whale sacks. I'm going now. But is there any product out there that you're like, I could really use a blank sponsor? What would that be?
Oh man. I mean, can I dream big? Like, how big can we?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I would love a flight sponsor. An airline sponsor would be horrific. Okay. No, I mean, it's definitely, it'd be convenient to have like a sponsor to help pay for airfares. It would make the decisions to go to different places a lot easier. But I think, I don't know, something that makes travel a little more easier, convenient. I know that's something that every touring player kind of wants and kind of wishes that could be a bit easier on almost anybody. So, but I don't know. It's hard to kind of think of some of the things that like you don't have. But yeah.
Okay.
Throw airlines out there.
That's fair. Then my follow-up to that is, if someone came to you and said, here's our proposition, Thomas. We're going to put you in a relatively large RV, one that we'll say has a little bit of size and then therefore division up front, meaning we're going to put you in an RV and we're going to provide a driver for you. They're going to drive you from event to event. And they may or may not be a golfer. They're a hired full-time driver of said RV, which then you are going to reside in. Assuming it was all legit,
yeah.
Would you take up a sponsor on that?
Honestly, I probably wouldn't. It's
Okay.
not really like my personality to kind of like live like that on the road. I think I like the freedom of kind of like doing my own thing, and then as well like just being able to be flexible with where I go, where I'm at, and not have limited like this is my space the entire year, my tiny little RV. Or I mean RVs can be big and feel like a lot of room, but I don't like to be confined to like the same type of space every single week. So even in like if Sprint, I mean I don't know if they just offered me a van on the spot, that would be very tempting. But like even the idea of van life isn't necessarily what I would go for.
Okay. I was just thinking like, if you didn't want the driver, and I think you've kind of answered it, if you didn't want the driver because you didn't want the notion of like, hey, it's a hired person and then I'm just rolling around in the back doing my own thing. But it sounds like just in general, you don't want to be in an RV that long going anywhere is kind of what I gather. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Huh. All right, that's an interesting way to think about it. Is if somebody said, we will
You're looking for a
hire
new
you.
gig? You start driving? Is that your deal, Ter?
I like to drive, but not that much, because then I would want to take on like 9 other roles and responsibilities. I'm talking a straight up quote unquote stranger that isn't even a disc golfer. That's like, where do you need to go, Thomas? Take me to the course for practice and take me to the laundromat or wherever you need to go. Like if somebody would accept that would be like, because you're not doing the toughest part. You're not doing the driving, which plenty of people dislike, understandably.
Yeah.
If you got somebody doing that for you, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just an idea. Maybe there's a business model here. I don't know.
10 more years, 15 more years, just self-driving vehicles. You'll be out of a job, Terry.
That's true. That's true. All right. Before we let you go, another random question that pops up in my brain is, give us your guilty pleasure out on the tour, something that, or even a surprising tick or unique thing that you do, or a guilty pleasure. I was going to say you eat at this random,
I was going to say Dairy Queen.
crappy
I can
chain
feel it.
restaurant, or you name it. I'm not even going to give up any more suggestions.
Right.
What's something that people would be like, really, Thomas, you do that here, huh?
I would say probably finding the best escape rooms in each city and trying to go do those. I know I did that quite a bit this year. I probably visited maybe like 15 different escape rooms in different cities like throughout the entire season. And so that's kind of something that's like, this is a nice way to kind of wind down the end of the day, or finish off like a practice round, is like get together a small group of people and go do an escape room.
I think get all like stressed out about trying to escape.
All I was thinking is like that doesn't seem relaxing.
Puzzle solving and
People yelling at each other
know.
and not getting clues.
I think I've done 2 escape rooms, and neither of them I thought like, just wind down. No, it's always somebody yelling at someone. No, look over there. Look in the book. It's the 3rd page of the 5th word. That's the secret password.
Please, with all of that, tell me you are doing some form of list and or rating system, because you should be selling or sharing this with somebody of like, here's the top, here's the 50 escape rooms I've been to, and here's the top 10 in the country. Please tell me you're putting a list together.
We got a list. We got a list created.
All right. I think that's some really good information that you could, secretly or quietly share with others about where to go. And what do you most look for in an escape room experience?
Escaping.
I would say, what's the word for it? Just like how real it feels, like how lost you can get in the fact that you aren't just in some room in some random building, but like you actually feel like you're in a different setting. So I guess like the atmosphere of the room is the biggest thing that I kind of look for. Obviously the puzzles, I want to be really good and challenging, but still solvable. But I think like if a theme of a room can really like make me feel like I'm there, that's always what makes it the most enjoyable.
That's a great answer. And then my follow-up to that is what is like the price span or range that you've experienced? And does price necessarily dictate quality? Have you experienced that? Like, hey, we paid X amount and this was a great experience, or, we went into the budget one and we got a budget experience. What's an average price point that you would expect to pay or someone should expect to pay?
I mean, it's definitely ranged between, I would say, I think it's 20 for like a pretty cheap escape room per person. And then 50 is kind of like the higher end. Like, I think we did one in Las Vegas that might've been like 60 or 70 per person. And I would say for the most part, you're going to kind of pay what you get for it. And so it's like, definitely some really good ones for a little bit cheaper of a cost. Some really kind of like, that was really good, but was it $60 good? I don't know. But I know, like, kind of to just throw out a random place on the tour, Nashville actually for Music City Open had really good escape rooms for really solid price point. I think it might have been like $25 a person, and like definitely I would say 2 out of my top 5 escape rooms I've ever played is in Nashville.
Cool. Good to know. Again, I know I feel much better about this. I know if I'm ever looking for one of those experiences out on the tour, I'm going to come hit you up for your recommendations. So do you do them more than anyone else?
I'm kind of in the middle, I'd say, or for people that do escape rooms. I know Katrina Allen does a lot of escape rooms. Kevin Kiefer did a lot of escape rooms with me. Okay. And then probably the king is Paul McBeth. He's done hundreds.
Huh.
Like, he loves the like problem solving and puzzle solving of escape rooms, and so he just like he loves grinding them out, and he'll do quite a few of them pretty often.
You got to wonder if that's really like a deep-seated, like rooted, some other problem he's just trying to work out in his life, of like trying to feel trapped, or I don't know. I'm not going to postulate here at all or speculate in any capacity.
He's a new dad, Terry. Let's ease off on him.
No. Yeah, this was pre-dad stuff though. But how good is he at doing them?
He's good. He's definitely got the strategy, and like he has a knowledge of like what to look for, what kind of things will lead to another, being able to kind of put some of the pieces together that like, because in separate rooms there might be different pieces that like you need this from this room, this from that room, and like he can kind of conceptualize and see how they all fit together really well, which I think is part of the skill of like learning how to do escape rooms, is seeing how the steps all sync up together to be able to escape. And he's pretty good at that.
Okay. Well,
I want to do an escape room with Paul.
Yeah. Wow. Get in line, man. I'm now selling that experience. No. I will go on record. I will put myself on blast. If you go back a number of episodes, we were definitely at your old house, I know. If you go back a few years on our podcast, which just celebrated 9 years as of 3 days ago.
Oh, yeah.
Go back and a couple of, probably, I don't even know how many now, but I said escape rooms are a fad. They're going to die. They're going to go away. Because they had hit this peak, and I thought they were I truly just thought they were a fad. And we see plenty of fads come and go. But I really thought they were already peaking. And clearly, I think they're on the decline from where they once peaked. But I thought they would be all but gone and all demolished and not even exist anymore. I thought it was going to come and go that quickly. So I'll put myself on blast. Nobody else is holding me accountable. So I'll do so here that I was incorrect.
I don't believe they're as popular as they were 4 or 5 years ago, but it's such an quote unquote easy thing because all you need is an empty business space, and you can create one. And obviously, you can create better ones with the more space you have, or the unique spaces you have. But it's just. Yeah, it's an interesting time we're in.
Huh. Again. Anyway. All right, Thomas. I think we've got plenty of great info out of you, as we would expect. Before we let you go.
Now, in order to leave the podcast, you need to find the magic key.
What we need for you, actually, is to instead... Any shout-outs, sponsors, recognition, things you'd love to specifically call out or highlight, anything like that, you got the floor, and plug away.
Thanks so much to...
It took me a second.
We lost him.
What's the password, Thomas?
I'm serious.
That wasn't you?
No, that wasn't me.
That would be the ultimate exit if that really is him.
Yeah,
really? We just lost him?
Literally just lost him.
All right. Well,
if he pops back on, I mean, I'll say this.
He clearly doesn't have an escape room sponsor.
Definitely Thought Space Athletics. He wants to thank them 100%.
Sure, that couldn't have been any more fitting per the conversation.
I was
just
waiting.
Goes black.
Yeah, I'm guessing his phone ran out of power.
All right, it looks like we've got him back.
Here we go.
For one last second, we can let him close. Either that or it was really clever on your part. Either way, Thomas, the floor is yours if you want to shout anyone out to close us out here.
Just thanks for having me on. Thanks to all my sponsors for supporting me. Almost timed it perfectly with my phone battery, but not quite.
Nailed it.
So, thanks to you guys again. And just a little nugget I'll throw out there is that there's a lot of, again, I think everyone thinks it's going to be a quiet off season, but I think there's still some excitement that's going to shake out. That's all I'll say, though.
Taylor Swift likes to drop those. Shake it off. You say shake it up. I'm picking up your clues.
I want one more. I want one more clue. Is it? Do you think we're going to see someone who's currently in a contract move?
Oh, like break a contract?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we're going to see a break, as far as I.
Okay.
No, I don't think they're in contract, but there's a couple big fish that might try to swim out of the pond.
Dang.
Okay.
Across the pond? Out of the pond?
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. All right. I know that you know all the goods, and I'm definitely not gonna to even attempt to trick or pressure you into any of those. But we know you're the man that always knows what's going on, and we very much appreciate that. And I love it. Thanks for the tidbit, because I've been hearing some of the same rumblings, and trust Thomas. I think that's the name of the game here. Well, again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for breaking down the tournament this weekend. Congratulations on not only being selected, but then going there, having the experience that you did, along with being part of the inaugural year and the very first ever. You'll forever have that in your back pocket as well. And excuse me, clearly a great representative of Canada, and then some. Yes, nice. The medal.
There we go.
Oh, that's a beautiful medal.
With this medal.
Heck yeah, we love it.
There it is.
All right, Thomas Gilbert, your gold medalist from the weekend. Thank you for joining us, and looking forward to talking to you a little later in the off season. Stay warm and stay safe out there.
Thank you so much, guys.
All right,
Thanks,
take care.
Thomas.
See ya.
This time we'll let him go the way it's supposed to go.
Yeah, exactly. I'm telling you, that was almost like it was planned.
Well, and the funny thing was that kind of happened to us, last weekend or the week before, is someone was thanking their sponsor. It just cut out on them. And so I was like, oh, it happened again. But no, it wasn't us. That was, he admitted his battery was a battery issue.
Yes. So
let's talk a little bit real quick about events that happened over the weekend. The 2023 Lake County Trailblazer, driven by Innova Pro Weekend. This was in Eustis, Florida. Andrew Marweed wins this one by 2 strokes. Come back on the final round. He shot 4 better than Joey Buckets to win $1,370 over Joey, who only won $935. Rough weekend for Joey.
Joey, who also, I'll just interrupt quickly. Joey, who has, I think, signed for now a 4-year deal, right, with Castoplast.
2-year.
Just kidding. At least 2 years with Castoplast. I didn't know you had that queued up.
I was going to talk about that.
All right, go ahead.
Literally right after we talked about this because he was in here, but you nailed it. So tied for 3rd place, Gavin Rathbun and Jared Stoll, and tied for 5th place, Gavin Phillips and Braden Sides. Over on the FPO side, Holly Finley takes this down by a single stroke, getting 1 stroke on the final round. So they went into this one tied with, or maybe it's close. I can't do math. Morgan Linz in 2nd place with Jessica Weiss in 3rd place, Sarah Hokum in 4th place, and the other Linz twin, Jordan Linz, in 5th place. We're going to move right on over to the Dynamic Disc presents the 6th annual Northwest Arkansas Open, sponsored by Flyway Brewing Company. This was over in Arkansas, no surprise.
Really?
Yeah, who would have guessed that? 1st place, Andrew Presnell in a playoff win over Nico LaCastro. 3rd place, Zachary Nash. And a tie for 4th place between Abraham Bahana and Logan Porter. Over on the FPO side, Katie Belty wins this by 5 strokes, taking home $522 over Kat Murch. So an upset, I would say, relatively big, considering Katie is only a 903 rated player, not a tour player like Kat Murch is. So this was a little bit of an upset there. So congratulations to Katie Belty over in Arkansas. Then we're going to go over to the shootout at Graham Creek X, which is probably 10, sponsored by Dynamic Discs. Benjamin Fulford wins $1,500 at this A tier, shooting a 22 under, tied with Christopher Downey, who only won 1,040. So you can deduce that he won in a playoff. 3rd place, AJ Carey. 4th place, Silas Williams. And 5th place, Scott Watson. Moving over to the FPO, Deanne Carey taking this one down, just squeaking out an 18-stroke victory over Wisconsin local Lindsay Fish. I don't know if she even lives here. She still claims this as her home. Lindsay Fish, a 903 rated player, takes home $470. And in 3rd place, Anna Pinter. So congratulations. Those are your A tiers. There is one more. I guess I'll talk about it. One more A tier over in New Zealand. It's the Moonbase 9 Twizzle 2023. New Zealand South Island Championships, not the North Island Championships. The North Island Championships, a bunch of chumps.
Well, you know,
just saying. No, the South Island's where it's at.
It is, and everyone will tell you got to go to the South Island. That's where that one movie took place.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah.
It's always funny that the second New Zealand gets brought up, that's where everybody tells you have to go, no matter what.
Got to go to the Shire.
I was just happy to visit New Zealand. I didn't care where it was. I was in the North Island.
It'd be a cool experience.
I got to see some black sand.
In 1st place, Levi Stout wins this one by 4 strokes over Jasper.
Jasper?
I'm going to go Jasper because go with Jasper. Jasper Vandermeer. In 3rd place, Jackson Sullivan. 4th place, Ryan Cambridge. And a tie for 5th between Ashton Clark and Sebastian Falconer. In the FBO field, you've got Haley Flintoff beating Echo Lee by 14 strokes. So congratulations to Haley. That is your wrap-up of the A tiers. Nice and quick, the way it should be done.
Echo tying for 2nd there with Alexandria Williams, I believe.
Oh, did I miss that?
Well, yeah, we'll just get that in there because you mentioned her, so they had the tie. I will quickly recap my wonderful experience, of course, I was at the Phoenix Ladies Open presented by Paul J. Sacco Law Offices, or Law Offices of Paul J. Sacco. 17th annual. It's been incredible to see. I've seen a number of different TDs host this throughout the years. It's because the torch has been continuously passed around. And when it was all said and done, Stacy Charles, I know, is one that's been there every year along with Paul J. Sacco, and then various TDs and incredible staff have taken it on year after year and have helped out. If you don't want to know the results, because I'm going to post the post-production coverage, close your ears for the next minute or so. I'm going to read off the FPO, and I'll release the coverage later on this week. But your champion, Sheila May Lai, otherwise known as Shelly May, or just Shelly. So keep that in your back pocket in case you get confused later about some pronunciations. She goes by just Shelly, which is awesome to see her take things down. She does so in a one-stroke fashion over Hannah Stavanovich. Hannah, who is engaged to one Nick Newton, who celebrates a birthday today. So I'm going to get them all in at once. Happy birthday to you, Nick. Good to see you guys. Violet Main taking third place. Carissa Dedman taking fourth. You'll see all four of those women in the second round coverage of the FPO. Quickly read down a few of our other champions. Jenny Umstead taking it down in FP40. Valerie Steinbaum taking it down in FP50. Dana Merritt in FP55. Patricia Miller had a day. Damn, did she have a day. Winning FP60. She did so in a playoff, and she hit an ace for the ace pool.
That's a good day.
It's a dang good day. And says her and her son, Steven, are going to try to come over to Thailand in probably 2025. So not the 24 version in a few months, but come over and play in that event in 2025. So congrats to all of them, and then congrats to all of our amateur winners as well. When it was all said and done, I think there was like 17 women's divisions represented. The junior girls played just one round in the afternoon, which I think is a great way to go about this event, and we see that at a lot of different events, different ways to try to make it as not only as warm and inviting, but then also to make it as enjoyable for as many as possible. And let's be honest, there's a lot of juniors who may only play one or two events a year that may not feel like a full day of playing is in the cards for them or is exciting to them. Some do, of course, and some don't. But and they could play in another division if they wanted to play both rounds. But our junior girls were playing just the one afternoon round. Something else that's really unique about this event is the fact that there's 20 holes that are set up on the north side of the Vista del Camino course that kind of mostly resembles what you would see if you went and played the course today, for instance. And then there's an 18-hole temporary course that's set up on the south side. So where we normally have those 6 holes for the Vista XL layout, like for the Memorial and the Shelley Sharp, that same property actually has an 18-hole temporary layout. So obviously much shorter.
Yes, that must be like a pitch and putt almost. That would be fun. It's
considerably shorter for some of our older players, some of our juniors age players, and just some of your newer divisions in terms of competing. Yeah, you maybe would shoot under par.
Ugh, I don't know.
There's a lot of water out there too.
There is.
Yeah. So it's very cool. They have an 18-hole course, a 20-hole course, and whatever course you're on it for the whole day, so you get to know it. And so big shout out, of course, goes to Paul J. Sacco, your presenting sponsor, the lawyer there on site. If you need anything when it comes to any of your legal needs, Paul is definitely the guy you want to reach out to over there. And then Jamie and her mom Jan and sister Janine, just Caitlin, Paul, all the people that did so much to make the event go, along with Chris Cobb and all the other sponsors. Tim is I believe the volunteer coordinator, and then all the volunteers that showed up, and then obviously all of the additional sponsors that were part of it. My boy Spicy Boy was out there and helped with a little bit of the coverage. Everyone had a really good time from what we could see. And when it was all said and done, what was it, 124 or 126 total participants? Ended up being 122 when it was all said and done participants, all women, enjoying Vista del Camino for the weekend. It was absolutely awesome. So I think I said Chris Cobb. Thank you to everyone that was out there in any part of it. And last but not least, my main supporters that definitely come through as always. Big shout out to Dan and Robin over at First Light. They always find a way to take care of me in every possible way, and coverage in Arizona wouldn't happen as often or as frequently as it does without the support of Dan and Robin and First Light. And so big shout out to them. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
The only other real news we have is some sponsorship news. Obviously, like you had said, Joey Anderson, affectionately known as Joey Buckets, signed 2 years with Castaplast, but also there's an extension for Casey White. Casey White signed a 1-year extension through the 2024 season with Discmania. So you can get them Skywalker discs.
Get it. Casey White. Okay. I like it. Yep. I like it.
There's your update for sponsorship.
Did we mention I guess this specifically Carter Aarons?
That was a few weeks ago. We briefly talked about that.
Did we know that it was 1 year though?
I don't think we knew it was 1 year, but he did move to Lone Star, and he's going to get, I think we talked about him getting a deal, and unknown exactly as far as that 1 year deal. He's still young. He's still in high school.
No.
So a 1 year deal, it's hard to know exactly what his plans are going to be for the season. I'm sure he's going to try to probably tour in the summer, but like we were talking with Thomas,
I'll say this. I don't believe, if I recall from Portland, now I'm already getting fuzzy, my memory at least, I don't believe he's doing like traditional
schooling.
Yeah, 9 to 5, September to June schooling. But you're right. He still is of that age, though, overall.
Young,
so
even though he looks like he's 27
and would beat us both up, he could beat you up with his left hand while beating me up with his right hand all at the same time.
I know.
Yeah,
exactly. And he's still only like 17 years old or 16 maybe. I don't even know, but he's definitely that kid.
And another news which you briefly touched on, but I'll go ahead and repeat. Tomorrow, you're watching this live or listening to us live. Tomorrow, the CBS Sports Network has the co-produced by Disc Golf Network and Jomez.
That's on Wednesday the 15th.
Wednesday the 15th, the PDGA World Championship starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm looking at a graphic right now. And then in 12 days after that, we have the USDGC and Throw Pink Women's Championship.
Can't wait to see who wins.
And then a couple weeks after that, we'll have the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship. Also all on CBS Sports. That's on December 11th. Monday, December 11th. Monday, November 27th for the Throw Pink and USDGC. And then Wednesday the 15th, as in tomorrow for us, will be the Worlds. So I'm going to send out a message or two because I have no idea. Clearly, I haven't seen any of that they put together. I didn't... Whenever we've had some of these, I've had to sometimes go in and do a couple of additional, like very brief voiceovers, like where it would maybe take us from, or there would just need to be a segment where it would say like, Heimberg for birdie, like that wasn't said during the live broadcast and they need it as part of the overall edit. I was not asked to do any of those, which leads me to think either I nailed the broadcast.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
Or maybe it's going to be more of a
were you
Yuli Germ Sexton? Well, maybe because it's Jomez Pro with the Pro Tour. Point is, I don't know where they're grabbing what from. Either way, I wasn't in the booth for Worlds.
No, so that's why I was going to say you probably.
But I also, and I wasn't in the booth for Throw Pink and USDGC.
Those might not be done yet.
The Pro Tour Championship on the 11th, I was in the booth for, and I don't. My point is, I know what's been done previously for some of these, network releases. I don't know what they look or sound like.
Maybe it was the quality of your work that they didn't ask you back.
Shut up. Very, very well could have been. But anyway, I don't know what they're going to look or sound like is, I guess, my point. I know I wasn't asked to do anything. Maybe I just nailed it.
Maybe.
Maybe not. Wow, is that all we have for news, Johnny? I mean,
That's all we have for news. There's a few talking points if you want to quickly touch on a thing or two. This is more social media stuff that has come up. This particular is a release from UDisc showing the Disc Golf Pro Tour stats, who was the best in 2023. There's a bunch of links. Terry, do you want to random a guess at who the best Circle 1 putter was in 2023? Have you looked at this at all?
I have not.
Oh, I haven't either.
Circle 1
in the
putter.
past, we've seen like Matt Bell. We've seen Andrew Marweed has been a champion for years.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I feel like...
who is the 2023 putter of the year?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm just going to go with a default of Andrew Marweed.
All right. And...
Or Eagle McMahon. Eagle McMahon might be.
Oh.
How many opportunities? Injury? I'm going to go Eagle McMahon.
Well, you'd be wrong.
Okay.
It'd be Andrew Marweed.
Damn it! Seriously?
Yeah. Andrew Marweed at 93.1%. 3% better than the next closest person, which is James Proctor at 90%, which is really funny because I think, unfortunately, the lasting memory we're going to have of James from the 2023 season was him missing a couple easy putts on that last round. But overall, James,
I already forgot about him.
Well, I didn't. Sorry, James.
No, I forgot about those putts, not James.
No, I know.
To be very clear.
No, I know. I was going to say Pepperidge Farms remembers.
Yeah.
Andrew Marweed, so 93. He had 620 putts made out of 666 attempts.
Dang.
So that is your best putter in MPO.
Eagle was down in 9th.
Eagle was in ninth.
At
So
88%.
And no offense to him. It's always a great thing when you say you start something out.
Yeah.
Don't. Paul Ulibarri in 6th place.
You can be shocked.
I'm a little bit, considering he has talked about, and we've talked about with him, his history of poor putting, constantly changing up his form for years. Every year he would have a different form.
Or every month.
Or every month.
Or every tournament.
Sometimes every
Or
tournament.
every front and back nine. Whatever.
But there was a great stat on social media about how he has progressively gotten better and better and better at his Circle 1 putts. And so he made 611 out of 690 Circle 1 putts. So oddly, he always kept score too. It's
and I was
weird.
just going to say, he had second most attempts on the list as well.
Yeah.
How's the Circle 2 doing? How's the C1 in regulation?
These are C1X, so they don't count the tap-ins here.
Yeah, no, I know.
They don't count the tap-ins.
All right. Okay. You were going to probably...
I was going to ask you... well, I guess we're going to go by MPO. I don't know how the article is formatted. Who do you think is the best Circle 2 putter in MPO?
I mean... By the looks of round 1 at Las Vegas Challenge, spoiler... you would think Cam Messerschmidt. He didn't play.
He's always been known as a great putter.
I mean, seriously.
But
he was putting on a clinic out there.
But he didn't. He was not on tour very much.
No, he was not, and that's why I can back that one off. I would say, I mean, Marweed seems like a no-brainer to go after. Gannon Burr always talks about wanting that. I'm going to say Gannon Burr. He talked about it, and or is at least close, because I know he talked about it all the time. And I'm going to say Gannon Burr.
All right. Gannon Burr.
Hey.
Congratulations. 40%.
Damn.
He made 167 out of 413. In second place, Matty O. In third place, I would say an outlier, but...
because he only had 54 attempts.
Only had 54 attempts. It's probably, 2 events? Maybe even 1 event. Who knows? Nate Metzler, 20 out of 54. And then fourth place, Ricky Wysocki. In fifth place, James Proctor. So Proctor, just a pretty good all-around putter. If you're in the top 5 in both C1X and C2 putts, there's a reason why Proctor had such a good season.
Yeah, and what's even surprising is to see Corey Ellis. Was he not in the top 10? Scroll back up, please. In terms of
he was not in the top 10,
which
is a surprise because he is a very good putter, and I think this was just maybe an off season for him. I think next year you'll see him back up on the thing. So, longest streaks with no missed circle one putts.
As in like number of holes?
I
Total holes?
didn't look at the details,
Okay.
Terry. I'm just going to read the big headline.
I'm just pulling out of the thin air. Like who? I'm going to say like
It's probably somebody in that top 10, right?
yeah, maybe. Or I was going to say like a Cole Redallen who's not in there, but then has these streaks.
Yeah, he goes on birdie streaks. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm going to say Cole Redallen. I'm just going to pick a name out of thin air here.
I'm going to take number 3 on this list, Chandler Fry.
Okay.
And it is Ulibarri. 148 no misses in C1 streak.
Damn.
Now that's C1. That's not C1X.
Okay.
So that includes tap-ins. But still, it doesn't matter.
It's still impressive.
It's still impressive. 148. He went from the Preserve all the way to the round 3 to the European Open round 3. So that's great. Then Ezra Aderhold, who is not necessarily known as a phenomenal putter, but again, this is C1, not C1X. So Ezra at 138 straight ones, and it takes a little drop down to James Proctor. Best throwers in the Pro Disc Golf 2023
Calvin Heimberg.
MPO.
I don't know what they're using.
Most impressive distance shots.
Calvin Heimberg.
Probably. Anthony Barella.
Okay.
With a 638-foot shot.
Wait, is this just getting...
I think this might be just...
a little more subjective?
A little more subjective. Well, this is distance, distance to parked ratio, or ratio is not the right word, but a 638-foot parked shot is... Maybe it's the longest parked shot that there was.
Yeah, Idlewild hole 1. Okay, I get it. I see where they're going with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like coolest, longest parked job.
That's like coolest, but longest parked job.
Yeah, well, they sometimes they're synonymous, I suppose.
Yeah. Highest precise power index, the PPI.
The PPI. Calvin Heimberg.
Calvin Heimberg.
Nailed it.
Calvin Heimberg, then Simon Lizotte, Oskari Vikström, Una Heinonen, Hjalte Jensen.
Okay.
Look at that.
Someone asked on the board, where can you find this? This is udisc.com/blog/post/best pro disc golf stats 20 MPO.
If you go to udisc.com, you'll see it under their most recent announcements.
Yeah, I will. I'll grab it for you.
All the stats here are with links.
Yeah, here we go. I'll put the link out there.
Best fairway hits. Who was our most accurate player this year, Terry? Would you say off the tee?
Calvin Heimberg.
I'm going to go Calvin. It's basically Calvin, but above him is Albert Heitinen at 81.2%, 130. Now, this probably also does include the European event, so 134 isn't...
Their fairways are bigger.
Their fairways are bigger.
Just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
His 165 throws, so he's probably a one tournament player on UDisc with 165 throws. You're looking at 3 rounds.
Yeah.
So
versus Calvin's 1,500 attempts.
1,500 attempps. Yeah. I'll take Kelvin over that. Even Kale, number 3, I almost want to scratch him because he's got a 236 attempts. Then followed it up with Otto, and then 5th place, Isaac Robinson with 1,700 attempts. What is a fairway?
Don't ask Johnny.
The biggest jumps in the disc golf world rankings. Who went from low to high, Terry?
And we're talking only MPO.
I think we're talking only MPO. Who was cruddy last year and good this year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is a compliment.
Okay, Terry.
Ezra Robinson would come to mind.
Ezra, that's a really good guess.
Ezra would come to mind as a gentleman that really, kind of popped off at various stages, and we saw him jump up.
It looks like it's a lot of overseas players.
Okay.
So what you've got is Pekka Haivanen went from 139th up to 77th. So that was a jump of 62, tied with Nestori Tukanen. Same type of jump. And after that, Zach Arlinghaus. A rookie.
Zach had a good year.
And then Cole Redallen at 43. So those are all, players. Zach makes a lot of sense. He was 120th. He really got on the tour this year. And we knew he was going to be a pretty solid. He was actually going to be one of my sleepers this year. He didn't quite pan out in fantasy like I thought he would. I thought he would pop up a little bit more. And James Proctor, who had a poor season last year at 41, jumping up to 16 in that first touring
I guess I've always just thought of him as so good that I wouldn't have.
He's been so good for so long, but that first year that he really kind of jumped on tour last year, 2022, he played like poop
Yeah, okay.
So sorry, James. Sorry, James, but I think you'd admit that too.
P word.
Oop. Best at keeping it clean and scoring under par.
Ezra was on that list, by the way, just above James.
Yes, good jump on Ezra Robinson. That was a good call. That was a good pull on you, Terry. Best at keeping it clean and scoring under par. Highest birdie rates. Oh, that's got to be Calvin.
Calvin, Eagle,
Gannon.
Rick, Cole.
No, not Cole.
Cole loved.
He loved himself some birdie streaks, but
and
that
scoring, keeping it clean and scoring under par. Yeah, no, he'd love to give him back.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
He loved to have a phenomenal
15 birdies
season
and 3 doubles or whatever, or 3 bogeys.
All right, number 1,
Yeah,
Calvin
Calvin,
Heimberg,
shocker.
Eagle, Ricky, Gannon, Paul, Marty Vielman.
It's almost like these are recipes to success.
Most Eagles in 2023, Terry. Would it be Eagle? Does he get one automatically for his name?
Eagle, Simon, Calvin all come to mind.
Double G?
Double G's obviously good distance. Eagle, Simon, Calvin. I'm just gonna go with the default. It's got to be. It's Calvin.
Calvin was 17. And Aaron Gossage at 13.
Yeah.
Anthony Brell at 12. Longest bogey-free streak, 2023, Ter.
Bogey free.
I've been bogey-free on the tour for a long time.
Yeah. You've yet to take one.
I've yet to take a bogey.
I don't know. I think you do in the control room once in a while.
Easy there. I'm not the one in front of the camera saying stupid things.
I never F up. See? It's so much easier for me. Either a Dickerson or a Robinson. I'm going to say bogey free?
Bogey-free streaks.
Isaac Robinson.
Eagle McMahon,
Damn it,
95.
He was the next person I
and
was
then
going to
Paul
spit out.
Ullman at 75.
Okay.
Nico and Matty O at 70. Longest birdie streaks, and I'm going to go with Calvin. Dude had a lot of them. He had to rack up a birdie streak in there, right?
Did he? I don't know. Well, they're not pulling from Chandler Fry's recent scorecard. That was
No, who
posted to
shot, what,
social.
19 under or 18 under?
Was that in over in Egypt or not Egypt? Africa?
No, it was local.
Was that local? I really thought that was over at the international event that they played or put on.
Oh, was it?
I don't know.
Oh, maybe it was. I wasn't sure, but I didn't think they were over there quite
local.
yet. I think it was local U.S. I'm saying
Local U.S. Yeah. Longest birdie streaks. James Conrad. Was his birdie streak that long?
I'm gonna go James Proctor. Miro Runanen
at 16,
tied with Colin Schott at 16, and then Isaac Robinson at 12, tied with Ricky at 12.
12 in a row. Okay.
We're almost through this, Terry. Lowest bogey rates.
Calvin.
Paul Kranz. Then Cale LaVisca. Then Paul McBeth. Calvin was 4th on this list at 8.9.
If you add up Kranz, LaVisca, and McBeth, you still don't have as many holes played as Calvin, or as many opportunities.
True. Paul had, I would say, a good sample size. The rest of them only looked like one event. So, but Paul obviously had a pretty solid event, pretty solid statistical analysis. Best scramble rates, I'm going to go with Ricky.
Yeah, that's I think.
It's actually Martin Bronstrom and then Scott Stokely, both at small scramble attempts, but scramble attempts aren't necessarily. Then Paul McBeth at 188, and then Eagle McMahon.
Ricky not even on the list.
That's that keeping on.
So bounce back rates, as in basically following up a bogey or worse with then a birdie or better. Yeah. I mean,
I'm going to go
Cole Redallen.
I was going to say Cole, but I'm going to go Ezra Aderhold.
That would be potentially a good guess.
Both of those guys are prone to bogeys and a lot of birdies. Because I did see a statistic that said, I don't think it was Udisk that posted this, that Ezra Aderhold was like one of the top birdie percentages, but also one of the top bogey percentages.
That sounds about right. That's a good guess.
It's actually Ricky, who had 55.1% bounce back rate. So he had 127 chances, which probably means he had 127 bogeys or worse, with a successful of 70. And then it goes Calvin, Josh Anton, Nestori, Eagle, Michael Joe. Ezra Aderhold was on the list, but down in 10th. Most active pro disc golfers.
I was going to say as in just probably most played.
Probably.
No, it wouldn't be Calvin in the sense that
he took time off.
There's plenty of events he doesn't play.
I think it's one of the prodigy kids. They play all
like
Alden
or
Alden, yeah. Alden, Gannon, Isaac.
Gannon or
Gavin.
Isaac make the most sense.
Isaac Robinson. Holes completed 1,662. So his best finish was Champions Cup and Worlds. He took first at those, Tara.
Oh.
Yeah. Remember that?
Man.
Who would have guessed?
Just think if you went to play those two.
Yep. This is all the MPO. Hopefully we're going to see some of the FPO stats come out.
Are they not out yet, or are they just a click away, and we're not going to roll through them all?
We're not going to roll through them all.
Okay.
But I do not see a link here to FPO, but I'm only skimming it.
And they might be rolling that out in the next day or two.
I'm guessing.
That's all thanks to our friends at UDisc providing us with content, so we get something to talk about.
Great guys. And girls.
Most of them.
Everyone over there. All but that one. I'm not going to tell you which one.
There's a few. Maybe just one. All right. Well, yeah, that's what we saw. So go out, plenty of off-season reading or slower season reading, so to speak. And then, of course, a quick plug, because I couldn't go this whole time without it. Las Vegas coverage dropped today. First round. You'll see round 2 drop on what would be, Wednesday, the 15th of November. And then on Thursday, you'll see the final round. And then by that time, also, even though it's almost all edited and ready to go, the PLO coverage that I just had this last weekend.
Slow down there,
will
Terry.
Also be coming out. Then there's a few that are a little bit older that can get released. And the next thing you know, I'm going to be at the Chain Hawk Open in Florida in a couple weeks. Yeah. Cold Turkey's taking place. That just officially sold out today, the tournament that I'm hosting in a little less than 2 weeks. So, but we still have a flex start all day Saturday. There is a flex start that's taking place over at the Cold Turkey.
Speaking of older media, there's a trend, I'm sure you've seen it on social media, amongst all of our disc golfers.
Yeah.
Photos of the first pro you met.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny. They didn't have photographs back when we were
No.
Those didn't exist. Chisel and drawings, chisel and stone, and it was more or less the first pro you met. And some people are, it was maybe the first pro they took a picture with, or whatnot. It was started with
Nicholas
and Simon, a picture with them, and it's funny because Nicholas looks the same, just smaller, which is fun. Like just literally shorter. Like the kid he just grew, but doesn't look any older. He doesn't age. And Simon, a little worse for the wear, I'm not going to lie. I'm just kidding. Simon's looking younger, but that was...
He was younger.
He was younger. That was 10 or 12 years ago probably for him.
So that's a fun trend that's been going around. Love seeing it. And people making the posts. And I was thinking, there was not a picture taken at one of my earliest tournaments. And then it's obviously, of course, where do you draw a line as to pro and who's a pro and what caliber of pro?
Our first pro was Barry.
Yeah, exactly. Barry Schultz.
Barry Schultz was the local stud who kicked everyone's butt and then eventually became the touring pro that he became.
Yeah.
Who
Barry was at every
Wisconsin
event in Wisconsin of any significance at all. Barry was there playing as well. So he would, in my opinion, be considered the first, legitimate, high-level professional.
Other than Barry, who was the first? Who do you think would it be like Stokely or Climo?
For me, it would have been Climo because Ken Climo and Ed Hedrick were at the 1995 Fox Valley Open, which you weren't even at.
I was not.
And
that was before I played tournaments.
95 or 96. Now I'm already starting to confuse myself. They were at one of those which is in the backyard of where Johnny and I played. Johnny lived just down the road from that particular park, Plowman Park. And so one of my first ever sanctioned tournaments had Ken Climo and had Barry Schultz, Paul Nitsch, who at the time was definitely a rival to Barry Schultz, very much in terms of skill, and on any given day, Paul would beat Barry. Anyway, they were both just as good as each other. And also, oh my gosh, I don't believe I'm drawing a blank, from Texas, he came up and played 1995. I don't believe I've just now forgotten it. Not a name that everyone would know, but in today's age. But from back then, everyone knew who he was. But anyway, they had played, can I find 1995, Eric Marks, sorry, who beat Barry Schultz. And Eric Marks finished just behind Ken Climo. So again, if you're a little bit more old school, I wouldn't expect you to necessarily know Eric Marks today. He's PDJ number 1024, but very much, a super impressive professional, obviously, at that time. So Ken Climo, Eric Marks, Barry Schultz, Jeff Harper, then Paul Nitsch, so on and so forth. So that was one of my first ever tournaments. Had Schultz and Climo and Eric Marks, and then Steady Ed Hedrick was friends with the tournament director. So he was out from California in Wisconsin hanging out.
Not a bad first event.
Climo,
one of your first events,
and Hedrick, along with our hometown Barry Schultz. And clearly, none of that really meant much to me. Ed Hedrick was, so to speak, just a guy. It was 1995. Yeah. He obviously was the founder in what he was, but there wasn't the social media, there wasn't the fanfare, there wasn't as much, renowned significance at the time. And so, yeah, that was
95. Climo was only
5-time world champ.
Yeah, 5-time world only.
It was May, so I think he was still at that time 90. Yeah, like a 5-time world champ. Yep. So, yeah, pretty funny that was who was at one of the first ever sanctioned events I ever played.
I was trying to think of my second pro, because Barry obviously was my second touring pro. I don't remember if it would have been Stokely, or because we ran into Stokely at North Valley, but I don't remember if that was before or after we went on spring break. I'm just trying to rack my brain, and I didn't feel like looking
we didn't
up.
do our first spring break till 98.
98.
And so
that's
when we met.
That would have been, so then it would have
Ron Russell.
Yep, we went.
And River Sherrod and Brad Hammock was probably at that event. Dave Greenwell, Climo, we stayed with and hung out with in 98 down in Sarasota.
That was when we went Double G and the Girthies. Johnny McRae.
Yeah, Double G was like this tall.
There's a picture somewhere of me standing next to him.
Yeah, so.
But yes, that was when we did our spring break tour. So it must have been Stokely after that, because I believe North Valley was like 99. The North Valley,
the Majestic?
No, it was like the North Valley Challenge we went over for. We went over Minnesota for. I think it was
98.
I think it was 98, 99, but I think it was after our spring break. So I couldn't put the two in my head, but it would have been that tour where we met almost every touring pro on the East Coast. Practically, it felt like, or at least the Southeast.
Darren says, for me, it was Barsby at the Bourbon Cowboy in 2018 GBO.
There you go.
That sounds about right. I like it. All right, guys, let's call it. It's almost as after show fodder, but let's call it. It's been an incredible show. Thank you so much to Thomas Gilbert, and thank you to Charlie Mead, all of WIFDIF, all of the PDGA reps, and then anyone else that had anything to do with that event.
Amazing.
Getting conjured up, put together, assembled, and then overall have the participation that it did. And you're talking about international competitors. You're talking about a couple of alternates, and then fancy uniforms. I mean, it sounds like they really did it up great on their first attempt, and kudos and hats off to all of them to make it happen. And congrats, obviously, to Team Canada for then taking it down with the U.S. finishing second. This has been podcast 480. Once again, thanks you to Thomas Gilbert. For Johnny V, I'm the Disc Golf Guy. We'll have our after show. We'll have giveaways. We'll talk about other random stuff. All of that and more in just a few moments when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBox TV's podcast, 480s After Show. Sometimes I get a little, I've been doing a lot of post-production self-commentary, and then your intro there may or may not bleed into what I'm doing here. I get myself thrown off once in a while.
It's okay.
480 in, I still do. And like 1,000 Disc Golf Guy vlog intros. Yeah, it's easy to still throw myself off, believe it or not. Ain't that smart, Johnny?
Yeah, Terry, don't you give yourself too much credit. So, Ray, Super Smashy on our Discord, asked a question about Simon Lizotte, who was talking about low scores in disc golf. Simon more or less said he thinks it's okay that we have low scores in disc golf, and we should stop trying to make the courses crazy difficult with all the crazy OB and this and that in order to try to get players closer to par. That maybe it's fine that we're at -10 to -16 around, and that the sport will always be considered quote-unquote easy as long as we have the size baskets we do. I don't know if he was hinting necessarily that we needed smaller baskets. What's your take, Terry? Throw it at me. Do you think our sport is fine now at 10 to 16 under par, or do you think we should be trying to make these courses crazy difficult or whatnot? Or, I mean, a lot of people talk about scoring separation and all this other jazz.
I don't know why necessarily. Maybe it's that excitement, but I'm good with what the scoring is. Dare I say the idea of the elusive 18 under being possible in our sport, I think is kind of cool. Clearly, some of those birdies on any given course might be nearly impossible or very good bonus birdies to get, and some are going to be gimmies and everything in between. But the fact that 18 in theory on almost every course that our Pro Tour sees is conceivable. Clearly, some of it seems absurd. I mean, look at how we initially talked about the Nevin course this year. We just thought, the players were saying anything under par is great, double digits insane, and then we see the likes of
Ricky
do what
Isaac.
he did, and Hammis and a few of the others, and then
shooting double
strings
digits
of birdies. Like they eventually to some degree got it figured out. It could also still bite them. I don't know why, but it doesn't bother me. It never really has.
No.
There's a theme here, folks. Simon, when everyone asks, Simon, I've got this great course. It's so good. It's championship caliber. It's got all these long, amazing, incredible shots. Simon's always like, I don't care. I don't want to go there.
Well,
he doesn't want to play those events. And my point to this
it's not so. I mean,
no, he doesn't want to play long, challenging courses.
I think
he has said it outright.
Yeah, but he does on the Pro Tour.
That's fine, but I'm saying,
you're not your local B tier.
Yeah,
No.
he birdies are fun.
Yeah,
and however you get them, you get them. Now, clearly, I don't think he's advocating for 210-foot open holes and 18 of those, but I think it just plays into the Simon theme or brand, which is
fun is fun.
Fun is fun, and birdies are usually fun. He's not saying dummy it down to make it insanely easy either, but it's fun to get birdies. Here's the bigger question is, are we trying to, I'll borrow from either Climo and or Steve Mills or both, are we trying to follow the yellow brick road that is the path that golf is on or has set or paved in front of us? Or are we trying to stand alone? And are we trying to be just a little bit different? And on any given day, on any given argument, it feels like we flip-flop between, yes, we're just like golf, we want to be like golf, here's what they do, and here's why we should do it. And then there's plenty of times you're like, no, we don't want to be like them. Look at how stuffy and ridiculous and silly and out of touch they are, the dying sport that it is. Like, I feel like both sides of that argument get played out, sometimes even by the same people.
Sure.
Which
depends on...
makes it kind of hard to listen to you if you're going to talk out of both sides of your mouth.
I think it depends on the
about if
subject.
we should be following the yellow brick road, so to speak. Look at everything. I mean, everything from the count of our majors and how many majors we have, and sticking with a Grand Slam theme. And other sports have 4, so to speak. But like we said last year, if the women have 5 and the men have 4, who cares? Let it be. Like,
No.
I don't know. In so many ways, we're not like golf. Even though we have a similar name, we're not like golf. And I'm okay with us embracing that.
A lot of sports right now are actually making efforts to improve the offense of their game. Whether that's shot clock, whether that's pitch clock, whether that is making it easier for wide receivers, calling more, offensive or more defensive penalties, making, hitting the quarterback, even brushing up on him sometimes, a flag, depending on who you ask. Most sports are going towards offense because it's more exciting. It's what more fans want to see. I personally don't have a problem with the scoring. I've said I would love to see more variety on our tour. Not every course has to be 9,000 plus feet. Like, I'm kind of over it. I like some big long courses. I don't want every course. I want to see a 6,900 foot course, a 7,300 foot course. I want a few more of them, but they have to be challenging. They have to be kind of wooded, maybe even, I hate to say it, maybe even a little lucky on a couple of the holes. Because those short holes, if these guys are so good, most of these short holes, they're going to, if there's a 25-foot gap, they're going to hit it on a 280-foot hole. They're going to hit it. That's what they do. I'm not necessarily opposed to maybe making it a little bit more difficult and making those gaps maybe a little bit tighter on those shorter holes. Some might call it lucky, hitting a 15-foot gap at 212 feet. But I would just love to see a little bit more variety in the courses. And it doesn't have, again, 1 or maybe 2 events where you have a short course mixed with a long course. Not necessarily a 9,800 foot course mixed with an 1,100 or 11,000 foot course. I want to see, like I said, the 7,100 foot course mixed with a 9,100 square foot course. I keep wanting to say square feet. 9,100 foot course. It's okay. It's okay to have that par 3 course.
So just as one example, what I believe is the shortest course on tour is the Beast.
The Beast, yeah.
That's just my guess. I'm almost certain of that. The number I can tell you in terms of feet is 7,900 feet.
Okay.
7,957. Obviously has provided challenge. We've also seen an 18 under, barring an argument about the
pars.
Whatever. The point is, we've seen it. The average score, and I just happened to be going back to this year, average score for round 1 was negative 4.59. Round 2, average score, this is the whole field, mind you, is negative 2.69. A little colder and or windier. And then right in the middle of those two was negative 3.5 for the final round of the Beast at that particular event. My question to you is, that's basically just a few feet short of 8,000 feet.
I like that.
Does that course, is that what you have in mind where you'd like to, I'll just say, more Waco-type courses?
I would like to see more Waco-type courses. It doesn't, again, I know I said like 6,500, 6,900. You said this one is what,
7,950. So we'll call it 8,000.
I'm okay with that. Maybe even a touch shorter. Maybe. I'm okay with it. I don't want all my courses to be like that. I think there should be a few. There should be a few big, long golf courses with artificial OB. There should be a few Maple Hill courses, super wooded, Iron Hills or whatever it is. Like, I want variety. I want European style courses where they do have all these crazy. I saw one hole on a European course, one of the events. I think it was barely 200 feet. And it was wooded, and they had to land in a little circle. It was a little Anheuser pitch. I forget which event it was, but I looked up. I said, "This is your hole." But the green was so small, you had to literally like hit this green, and there was no nothing to stop you. There was nothing. It was just pace your disc. You could slide into the green. I was fine with it. I think out of the 4 people, 3 of them went OB on that particular card. It just they hit a tree early. They would whatever. I'm okay with some of this stuff. I'm all right with it. I just want to see variety. And I don't want to get into a full conversation about this. Carney on the board says that smaller baskets would be a huge financial hit for every single course in the world. No, it wouldn't. Not every course has to have them. If the Pro Tour decided we're going to go to marksman's, everyone calls them marksman style, but because that's the brand, like kind of like Q-tip, but went to a skinnier basket. It doesn't mean that every course has to have them. Not every park has an NBA court on it. Not every court has, sometimes you've got, chains. Sometimes you have, you don't have to match. These could be
breakaway backboard or glass backboard.
Correct. When you go to a bowling alley, it isn't oiled up like it is for the top pros in bowling. You're getting a scaled back version. I think it would be.
We're talking oil patterns here.
Oh gosh, don't get me started on the oil patterns.
I like a 1-2-1 diamond approach.
I couldn't even tell you if that was real. I'm sure it is. But just saying that you could have the pro level basket and have it be a little smaller, or maybe bigger than a marksman but smaller than what we have. It doesn't. You don't have to switch every course, and maybe some courses want them, but.
An interesting response to that I've seen is someone say, in what other sports do we continue to make it more difficult? Or maybe isn't that somewhere even within Simon's response, where he says, in what other sports do we at the professional level and only there try to make things more difficult? Like, and I don't know, there's, I'm sure, plenty of analogies, some that are very fitting and some that then miss the mark. I mean, you have different 3-point lines, right? Depending on what level of basketball you're playing in, and different basketball sizes. But I know that's usually that's largely for MPO versus FPO, and we have different T's and such. But anyway, field goals, goalposts, things of that nature, different sizes. We don't lower the rim, but yet at a younger level, you sometimes see 8 or 9 foot rims. I think when you're playing at a really, really young age.
Sure.
I mean, so I don't know if that entirely holds water in terms of that argument. And would it be weird? I guess my point is, would it be weird to have, let's just say you don't retrofit any courses in the country, and the Pro Tour just travels with 18 marksman baskets, slides them in for the weekend, and at the end of the weekend takes them out, puts the baskets back in that were already at the course, and they just move on to the next event. Clearly, that's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
That could be done in theory.
I'm 100% okay with that. If that were to, they were to do something like that.
I don't know I don't know if that's what we need or not. Again, it keeps coming back to, do we care?
Correct. I'm not saying
about the scores. I'm
not saying that has to happen. I was just reading off of the board what Carney was saying about that particular line of thought, that a huge financial hit, because as we know, like I don't want to, if I go bowling, I don't want to bowl on a pro level oiled court. It's just or lane.
And you want the bumper lanes up.
Give me the bumpers, baby.
Yes.
Give me the bumpers.
Those. I agree.
And just in general, we don't have to play the exact same way that the top level pros play. We can watch them. We can marvel at them. We don't have to do it. Not every course has to be, 70, or I was going to say 7,100 feet, but like 11,000 feet.
Yeah.
If I go out and play, I don't, like Simon says, I don't want to play an 11,000 foot course, period. If I go out, I want to play whatever, Dretzka is in the mids, 8,000 feet, whatever that is.
Yeah,
so,
I don't think it's that. But
I don't think it's that either. But I was thinking, I guess if you limit longs, yeah. So, but we don't have to play the same thing. So if the Pro Tour had something different for them, I think that would be okay. If that's what we want, like you said, we don't necessarily know if we want to have less aces, less birdies, harder scoring, tougher putts, these type of things. I think there are other steps we can get to first before maybe that is the method we go. But anyway, so as we know,
similarly, everyone continues to have an opinion about, backing up jump putting. Should falling over be extended to 45 feet or all the way out to 66 feet, whatever the question is. That is another consideration that has been had. And for me, I don't think jump putting, it like makes the game so much easier. I don't know how good you guys are, but if you're just making every time you jump putt, then why aren't you throwing farther away from the basket on purpose? If jump putting is so easy.
I agree. I 100% agree with that. I only don't like it just for the mere
aesthetics of it.
No, I don't care about the aesthetics of how someone looks when they jump putt. The rule calling is that it's very difficult to call. If it's a rule in the rule book, it should be callable. And right now, falling putts, jump putts, step putts, they're almost. It's almost impossible to call them, which is why I don't like the rule in general. It has nothing to do with the fact that it's a competitor and a competitor. It's just flat out, like you can't
discernible. It's very difficult.
It's very difficult to discern whether it actually happens or not. You could slow it down and be like, oh yeah, look at their putt was well out of their hand, or still in their hand. I'm sorry, when they were off the ground, and then it came out a half second later. And the only way you notice that is because someone snapped a photo at the exact right time.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I don't like those particular rules. But my idea, you back that circle up to like 60 feet.
Or just make it easy and say 66. But
66. Yeah. Why is 66 easier than 60?
Just for the fact that would be exactly then 20 meters, and we use 10 meters as a particular standard.
But we'd be
unit
getting
of
rid
measure
of that.
Currently. Well, that's what I'm saying. Is I don't know if maybe there's still rules that apply, or maybe there's still statistics that apply to 10 meters. That's the only reason why I say keep it.
Yeah, I mean those
because right now
all I'm saying is that it's way harder to judge 60 feet than it is 30 feet. The further you get away,
I agree.
The way harder it's going to be to judge, and there's going to be so much like, am I in or out? Do I need to measure? Can I step now? When you step it off, that's 20 steps you need to step as opposed to the 10 which most of us take. You're adding so much. I don't say so much time, and I get a lot of people have. They're little Bushnells. They can just pop it and tell you now. But
so those are only accurate up to plus or minus 3 or 5 feet.
Right? Yeah, I'm with you. That's the only reason I think backing it up is a huge pain in the ass, because that just adds way more question. Now,
can you imagine
again,
walking through a wooded section, like you're trying to putt on like the third hole after you've gone into the woods at Waco. And you're like, am I outside 66 or even 60? Am I outside 60? And you're looking, you're like, I don't know. There's 100 trees between you and them, and you can't even walk a straight line. Like,
you can hardly tell at 30 feet sometimes.
Exactly.
For that.
So
that's just my take.
Okay.
I don't necessarily think that is the way.
So,
and if the Pro Tour had different rules, again, same thing. If the Pro Tour decided we are going to get rid of the 30-foot mark and no falling putts inside of 60 feet, because we know that we can mark every one of our 60-foot putts with circles and blue little flaggy things. Mm-hmm. Great. That doesn't mean that the whole world needs to go that way. The PDGA can keep their rules, and the Pro Tour can amend their rules to change it. Is it a little confusing? Maybe.
Yes and no, and I'd say it's no more confusing than the fact that you have to wear dry fit at an A tier and you don't at a C tier. I mean, there are different rules that apply to different levels of our game, and I think they could be adopted. Here is a question I've had for a few weeks that is on par, a little bit of a tangent, but not with all of this, which is...
Hit me with it, Terry.
Whose responsibility...
Probably
is
mine.
or isn't it to determine inside or outside of the circle when nothing's marked on the course? You go out to your local B tier and you say to the guys, am I inside or outside the circle? Other two people on the card don't care, but then say, I don't know. Whose responsibility is it? And are you? Is there any onus of anyone else on the card to then decipher yes or no and to call it back?
I think if it's, I think the player makes the decision, and they should ask the card if there's any question. If you know you're going to do a falling putt or a jump putt and you are near that line, I have no problem asking, Or, hey, can I step this off?
Okay.
Pace it off. You got, approximately 10 steps. Like, all right, it looks, hey, I got 11 steps. Someone's like, all right, that's good. That's fine with me. It's a group decision. Like, ultimately, the first decision is the player, and then the group has to concede that it is or isn't. Because if one person says, no, that's definitely inside, you can't jump putt. Unless you have definitive evidence, I think you have to go with the guy who says no. Even if 3 people say yes, if one guy says no, I think you have to, at that point, go with the guy who says no. You have to disagree because
I think it's an interesting perspective for the people that love to jump putt.
It has to be seconded if it's a falling
well,
putt.
Yeah,
so even if one person disagrees,
does it have to be seconded anymore though with our new rules?
Maybe not.
I don't know that it does. So that's what's kind of funny. Just imagine you and another guy like, yeah, I think you're good. Mm-hmm. Somebody jump putts. The third guy who was quiet says, oh, falling putt or jump putt or whatever. They yell something out. Like, it's an interesting take because it's almost this awkwardness that it can put on the other group members, and everyone has their different opinion about a jump putt, the legalities, whether they like it or not, maybe depending on how good they are or aren't, if they incorporate it or not. I think a lot of those things can fester up. And if someone's saying, hey, am I outside the circle, is it your responsibility to reply to them and say yes or no? Like, why is it on the other person to determine if you're outside of 33 feet? And then let's say 2 people say no, 2 people say yes. Well, I really think it is. Well, I really think it is. Then are your paces good enough in terms of being official? And whose paces? Whose paces are good enough?
And again, maybe going back on what I just said, it does require. It needs 1 second if you have a foot fault. It needs to be seconded, I believe. But you can't.
Let's look.
You can't second it yourself, though. I believe that's the rule.
To be fair, the reason why Johnny and I are not 100% certain is because this rule has changed back and forth a few times throughout our careers. Any throw made from within 10 meters of the target, as measured from the front of the lie to the base of the target, is a putt. After having released a putt, the putter must demonstrate full control of balance behind the marker disc before advancing toward the target. A player who fails to do so has committed a stance violation and receives a 1-throw penalty.
But that doesn't say how many people we need to second it. Because if you need basically 2 people, then even if one guy says it's not, if the other 2 in your card say, he was outside that circle, then it doesn't matter what the one guy says. So I guess I'll step that back, wondering how many people you needed to second it. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just going to read further. 802.07 under stance says, if the lie has been marked by a marker disc, when the disc is released, the player must, 1, have at least one supporting a point that is in contact with the lie. 2, have no supporting point closer to the target than the rear edge of the marker disc. And 3, have all supporting points in bounds. Drop zone, a player who violates 802.07a or b has committed a stance violation and receives a 1 penalty throw.
Again, that doesn't say. So Carney is saying that it does need to be seconded. That's just someone on our board. So
what are you trying to say?
Then I'm going to second Carney's thing. So I'm saying I believe Carney. I think he's right. I believe it does have to be seconded.
So this all again stems from the idea.
I'll get a note from the PDJ tomorrow saying, "You idiot! How do you not know this?"
What my point is, though, I've seen where a player will ask, some other players are uncertain. Sometimes a conversation ensues, sometimes an awkwardness ensues, whatever. And then I keep thinking, well, wait, is it of the other group? Is it of the other members of your group? I understand asking them, but if they're either uncertain or there's a we'll say some form of split decision, like what should be the next course of action? Should you just automatically not jump putt?
Well, I'll tell you what, if two guys say it's not, I'm not jump putting for fear of being stroked.
So
that's what I would say.
Kind of interesting to think about, because sometimes I feel like there's this awkwardness of like, well, you guys have to make the call. Is that inside or outside the circle? And I feel like the person who's jump putting, especially if they're a frequent jump putter and love to do it right from circle's edge, they should be the one that has to kind of prove or not that they're inside or outside the circle.
How do you?
That's my point, is how do you prove it? Are we stepping it off? Are we using Bushnells that have plus or minus a few feet on them? Like, that all seems a little bit silly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting thing I've seen unfold among card mates as to like, Well, and I'll be the first to admit, I've definitely seen when, am I outside the circle? Oh, yeah, you're good. I think they're clearly not outside the circle. And some people just are kind of nonchalantly like, don't care. Like, whatever.
If it's close, I just usually let the player do whatever they want. Like, if it's within, I would say, 2 to 3 feet, then I look and I'm like, hey, you're like,
I mean, it is tough to tell.
It is tough to tell when you're that close. And I was like, yeah, you're about at the circle's edge. So, I mean, if you want to jump putt, fine. Otherwise, step it off. And again, we're going to the 30-second rule. If you step
part of it,
if you step it off, I'm going to say no. It's not part of it.
What if you step it off every hole? Well, like you happen to be close, but you're stepping it off every single hole.
If you're stepping it off and it is clearly outside of the circle, then I'm counting your time.
But if you're stepping it off and it's inside the circle, you don't.
No, if it's clearly inside the circle, I'm still counting it. The only way I'm not counting it is if it's questionable. If the group has a question, because
subjectivity, but
it is. Mm-hmm. But like the rule is when you get to your lie, or when it's like your turn to throw or something. Mm-hmm. Basically, when you approach your lie, and I don't think you're approaching your lie if there's a question as to whether or not you're inside or out, because you still don't know technically what your lie officially is. That's my take on it. If the group is like, I don't know, it is, and it's really close, why don't you step it off? I'm not counting that in the 30 seconds. That's not part of your normal routine. That's not part of, that's not you approaching your lie like you're ready to throw. And I understand it slows the game down. But again, if you're 60 feet out and you just want to pace it off because you want to know if you're 50 to 60, because that's going to change how I putt, I'm sorry, I'm counting that, because that is not questionable. You are...
You're trying to gain range, so to speak. You're trying to get range.
Yep.
Where it's clearly, like you said, it's clearly somewhere between 50 and 70 feet, and you're just trying to determine what it is.
No, I'm definitely counting that.
Okay. In the spirit of me releasing Las Vegas coverage today and tomorrow and the next day, I'm gonna pre-warn you.
Oh boy.
In a good way. And I have taken some editorial liberties.
Oh, I know where this is going.
And I have trimmed, I'm going to say, every potential time violation. I've trimmed them out of rounds 2 and 3. I think I trimmed them all out. I don't want to watch it. I doubt you want to watch it. And I'm telling you this on purpose so that you're not scared of the coverage, or you're not, maybe stay away from it largely for that reason. Spoiler alert, round 1's already out, so I'm going to tell you this, and maybe you already know. Jacob Curtis, Cupcake, is on the card for round number 2 that gets filmed, and any and all times where he exceeded time violation, or what could be perceived as time violation, they were all trimmed. Literally every single one of them. And to be fair, a few other people's routines were also trimmed. So if you look, I think my front nine's only like 26 minutes. The back nine's 25 minutes. Like, those are relatively short by anyone's standards, actually. But I had trimmed them all. And I'm telling you that now so that you don't see maybe the title or the players and think, oh, I don't want to sit through that. You're not going to. That's what I am warning you of now, or proclaiming, or exciting you about now. You will not have to sit through that.
Ray says you should edit out the tap-ins too.
That's not.
Some people can.
I'm not saying that's the worst idea at all. In fact, I wouldn't.
I don't mind the tap-ins
because
they don't take very long, and it lets you kind of close out a hole. And it gives you a little more time to breathe.
Close out a thought.
Yeah.
Maybe get an extra mention or something that may or may not be, play related, and say, oh, such and such is happening, or thanks to so and so. You're right. But that would be interesting. And then someone said, unless there's a miss. Well, that's kind of funny, because if you get in that routine and then all of a sudden you see what looks like a tap in is coming up, but you're known to edit out tap ins, then it's a miss. Like, that kind of ruins it a little bit if you don't if you kind of have always a strategy to it. But again, it would be a great test run. It would be great to test that out.
Do it.
I should do that. I like it. They all tapped in. Here's the question, and this kind of goes to live broadcasting too. Does that include for birdie? Does it matter?
This is
because for live it does.
For live it does, based on our producer.
On one guy there. That's why I asked.
Mahmoud makes the final call. He makes the final decision. If it's for birdie, we almost always show the tap in.
There's like a closure, a completion.
There's a complete, especially
a celebration, whatever.
Especially if it's one of your top 2 or 3 players.
Yeah, you want to see every single shot.
Why
are we not seeing Macbeth tap in from 4 feet?
And it does.
He birdied 4 in a row.
It adds to it adds to that closure. I don't necessarily. I think personally, if Macbeth parks a hole, boom, it's under the basket. We've seen the whole disc. I don't necessarily think we need to rush to get the tap in. I think you can assume, or that's what your commentators are for. Like, we're watching another hole, and Mo comes in your ear and says, hey Terry, we're not going to show the Macbeth tap in, just mention it. And then that's what the commentator says. And while these guys were putting in, Paul tapped in and moved on to the next hole for his birdie. We don't need to see him walk up, mark it, drop it in, walk away. Personally, sometimes you do. It depends on the hole. It depends on the situation. Depends on the scenario.
Yeah,
if it's his 8th in a row, you maybe want to see that. If it's his second, park job in a row,
9 holes.
You don't necessarily have to see.
Does it matter the difficulty of the hole? Like you park if you park a 528 footer, versus you park a 322 footer,
there could be, because and granted, we have the advantage of some replay in that if you park a 530 foot hole, and then people might maybe want to see that drop in, like, wow, he literally dropped in that 530 foot hole to show that, and maybe the other guys on his card high five him, whatever. If it's a 280 foot hole that he taps in, congratulations. I'm more likely want to see the guy who didn't make it.
Well, yeah,
way to go,
and then
chump.
You can even add more goofy context to it. It's a 280 foot island hole in which Macbeth, we'll just keep using his name even for the bad. He double bogeyed it because he missed the island, then missed the short putt, and was frustrated. Took a 5 on it, so he doubles it, and then on the next day, it's just a standard park job, and he birdied. Like, we're still going to show it because it's such a contrast to what happened the day before. So there clearly is no perfect formula for it, because everyone kind of has a different perspective and or justification for it. But those are some of the things that are going through the producer's head that are also maybe going through my head as you're watching it all unfold. And then inevitably, whatever you do, someone somewhere can then complain because they think the exact opposite is what should have happened. Why the F are we watching this tap in?
Yeah, and let me say,
there's more to it.
If you want to get a good interview with Mo, he was just on Fish's podcast. Go listen to that. I think he actually mentions you. I haven't listened to it yet.
Wait a minute. Go on.
It's all bad. No, I'm just kidding. But that's just what someone said on the board. Oh, no, never mind. He said he actually meant JVD and not Terry.
All right, we're reading off the board. Eric is saying, Mo gave Terry mad props on the Fish podcast. And he said, wait, I meant Johnny V, not Terry. Sorry.
As it should be.
I thought he was going to get an extra download, and now I don't care.
Well, now, Fish, I'm going to download it from 2 devices, so there you go.
That's funny.
Just in general, I give Mo so much credit because I think he's one of the best things to happen to the broadcast.
But
No,
I just
and I'll say 95% of the time I agree with his decisions.
Sure.
But there are 5% of the time where I question, I'm like, and I'll tell him, I'm like, did we really need to show that? And usually he'll stop, he'll think, and be like, probably not, but did it hurt? And it's like, no, never. Like, usually showing extra rarely hurts. At the most, maybe we lose one shot that we could have shown through an entire broadcast. If we show a bunch of stuff that's kind of mediocre, and I'm going to put that in quotes, maybe we don't get to show one more mediocre shot. Because we're going to show all the great shots no matter what. We're going to squeeze them in. We're going to find a way. It's just the way it works. So, again, I agree with 95% of, maybe even more than that. Maybe it's like more like 98% of most decisions. And when I don't, I say something. And he knows it. And it's all, we have a good, open, working relationship where I'm just like, did we need to show that? Really? Like, I don't need to see that. Or something like that. It's usually, and most sometimes will give me like, no, I really wanted to see that for this and this reason. And I'll be like, oh, okay, cool. Or sometimes he'll be like, probably not. You're probably right, John. And then I'll hear this, like, scribble, as he scribbles in his notebook, his note says maybe like, hey, listen to Johnny here, or don't show this here. Or my favorite was he used to write, be better. And I'm like, what does that do? He's like, just reminds me to be better. I'm like, okay, dude. It was great. It was great. I miss working with, like, right next to Mo.
Well,
I want to do it. Let me put it this way. I want to do it like one round, and then he can go back to his house. It's just, I want to have him here. It was fun, but it's good to have space. I love Mo to death.
Ooh. Well, apparently he's on the Disc Golf Bra podcast, so make sure you guys check that out with Fish. As I'm reading some other stuff off of the board, I mean, Hayes dude says an ace is just a tap in when the T-pad just cut those out too. That's a good call.
You know what? It's just one throw.
I mean,
what are you gonna miss?
Yeah, no kidding. No big deal. As one single throw. Man, I had a train of thought on a couple other things. First of all, I will lead with Shasta Chris has already found his way over to Thailand.
Jeez.
He's spending some time. Yeah, like it's that awesome over there. He's in Chiang Mai, which is where he was last year for quite some time. Then he ended up coming down to Samui and then going back up to Chiang Mai. I saw him make a post just a couple hours ago talking about, I think they're having the something of flight, freedom of flight, or something like that going on possibly this weekend. Maybe it's a tournament going on this weekend and or some other action. So awesome to see Shasta Chris. He clearly, like last year, we talked about what it was like to be there, and now he's extended his time to be there even longer during this off season. So great to see that already happening over there for Shasta. Some other quick notes. I know.
Oh, big news. Big note. Congratulations to Paige Pierce
and Alyssa Van Lannen.
Who got married just this past weekend.
Yeah, on Saturday. I'm trying to think if
we forgot to mention it.
Any chance that one of them would it be maybe become Alyssa Pierce? Paige Van Lannen?
I'm not going to speculate, but I will speculate.
Okay.
I don't think either of them will change their name.
Okay.
It's a guess. But who knows? Maybe they will.
They both very much have their unique branding and
like, to me, it doesn't make sense for Paige Pierce, who sells all these discs and whatnot, to change her name. But she could change behind the scenes and still have a disc golf name, similar to what Val has done with Valerie Doss versus Valerie Jenkins. Alyssa doesn't necessarily have, her name doesn't quite hold the same type of clout that Paige's does, since she has not really done well, at least in the disc golf community. I don't know about necessarily other local communities. Maybe the Alyssa Van Lannen photos is still going strong outside of disc golf. I know it hasn't inside of disc golf, so I don't know if her name particularly holds a ton of weight in any big communities or not, where keeping it would make a difference. Or maybe, as I've been dealing with at work, where I work is, I think it's about 90% women. It's real estate. It's a lot of office work. It's always been traditionally the jobs around me are mostly women. And so I deal with a lot of name changes. And so today, literally, someone's like, John, I changed my name like a month ago. And do she's like, I've been putting this off. Can you update my email address? Because it was first initial, last name. She's like, can you update my email address? And I'm like, sure, I'll be happy to. I need to update your email address. I need to update your Active Directory, your login. I need to update your phone. You need to contact HR so they can update. She's like, I already took care of the stuff. I'm like, nope. I know you took care of your billing stuff. I don't care about that. Your paycheck, that's on you. I said, you need to update HR because they control a couple other things software related. You need to contact them to have them update your email because everyone authenticates in with an email address. You need to update this and this. And she's just like, oh, she's like, this is why I didn't want to change. She's like, it was bad enough having to change my name in the real world, much less now having to do it at work. And thankfully, we have it down to pretty well science. It takes me all of about 8 minutes to change someone's name in the 4 to 5 spots I need to change it in. But I can understand what a pain in the ass if they didn't want to go through that.
Yeah, and just want to
just said, you know what? No one needs to have each other's last name. We're good with what we got because it is a pain. So,
other things of note, and this I'll reiterate this just because I was there and I saw it with my own 2 eyes. Ray says the Las Vegas Grand Prix is this Saturday at 11:30 p.m. Eastern, which it was like
overnight.
9:30.
Yeah, it's like an overnight race.
If you want to see what it ends up looking like. Just the sheer construction and madness that is the Strip, and then the few blocks surrounding the Strip, along with all the potential strikes that were, possibilities. I'm still going to be blown away. I've never watched an F1 race in my life.
No, nor have I. Not live, maybe highlights.
Only because I have visited Vegas, and I'm interested to see how it looks on TV. Will I maybe pay any attention to this?
Do you have ESPN?
Where I'll be probably, where I be does.
Where I be.
So, again, not for the reasons of caring about the race whatsoever. I'll be interested to talk to some Vegas locals as to how the finished product looked just outside of the cameras. Because when I was there 2 weeks ago, I still cannot believe the amount of unfinished work that there was. And it was very obvious what needed to be done and then some. Even with working around the clock, I'm going to be really curious. I know if you're at all local to Vegas in any capacity, from what I gathered, everyone's hating it in terms of the construction, the madness, the everything else that goes along with it. I always think they're like, yeah, but it's generating, they're saying it's generating so much more business and money. Thinking, you need another reason to go to Vegas? Like, really? You needed one?
No, but if you're going to bring in people who don't normally go to Vegas, that's your goal. Your goal is to bring in people who don't normally come to Vegas, let them see what Vegas is like, so hopefully they come back.
I just think it's like one of the number one visited touristy places on the planet as it is, or at least in the U.S. It's funny, though, like there's another thing, and like economic impact is that big of a concern when they bring in hundreds of thousands of
sound weird to feel like Vegas needs economic impact from tourists at all. But
that's my point.
I can understand wanting to.
So best of luck. I know plenty of people that are just going to steer completely clear of that entire area at all costs here for the weekend. So we'll see.
Route 5 Disc Golf says best underrated podcast. I don't know if you're saying we are, or if you're asking for a suggestion as to one. I don't know. Because I listen to a lot of podcasts. You don't.
Which is more than the 0 I typically listen to.
My newest podcast I've been listening to is Black Hills Security InfoSec. Basically, nerd podcast.
Really? Shocking.
Yeah, I know. Just security stuff. Otherwise, We Have Concerns is always a good, funny science.
I feel like I have listened to that.
You might have.
I'm pretty sure I have.
It's always good. Oh, he says us. He loves listening to us. Well, thank you. But if anyone's interested, I'll rattle off some of the podcasts that I have in my list right now.
And while you do so, I know I said happy birthday earlier to Nick Newton, also another guy in kind of the general vicinity of everything disc golf here in the Midwest. Sean Pitts, happy birthday to you.
Oh, Rivers, happy birthday.
No, different Sean Pitts.
Oh, different Sean Pitts.
Believe it or not.
Oh, jeez.
I know. What are the odds of that? But yes, a different one.
I think a podcast you would really enjoy is Decoder. It's Nilay Patel. I think I've mentioned this before. Works for The Verge. He grew up in Racine area. He interviews CEOs. And this I just listened to one today where he interviewed the CEO of Volvo, and just the future of cars, the tech. What is a car now that it's not? The interesting thing that I never thought about is growing up. You and I, standard ICE vehicles, as they're called, internal combustion. How were they marketed? Usually by power, strength, sound. Like you knew a V8 versus a V6. How is that going to happen with electric vehicles that make almost no noise? Yeah. And all the amenities are basically the same. Your infotainment system is probably Android or Google, Android or iOS. Your car they're all going to sound alike with almost no sound. Yeah, just a wee. It's just interesting that the history on how these companies have always advertised their vehicles as far as the power and the horsepower and the sound and the engine and this no, all that's gone. You have to find a new way to market your vehicle.
Well, in that sense, and obviously not knowing exactly how he then combated that or replied to that, I think your acceleration and horsepower, so to speak, or just overall acceleration, is still could be of major note and a major factor, but clearly it's the audible that doesn't go along with it. And I think about
almost every electric vehicle now has so much torque off the take that getting from 0 to 60, your Teslas can do it in under 3 seconds. All your other cars are 4 seconds now.
Yeah.
No one in your right mind, maybe it's 5, needs to get to 0 to 60 that fast. Period.
Well, until I hit the Vegas Strip this weekend in my race.
I'm just saying. So, yes, you could sell that. That could be a selling point. As far as it's so funny because growing up, our cars got to 0 and 60 in 8 or 9 seconds, and a car that could almost not make it to 60. But just in general, that's one of the things that we're saying is every electric vehicle now has this initial kick that you can get out of these engines just based on how they're built, and every one of them, it's the engine just is no longer. It feels like a selling point.
I feel like there's so many other cool things that can be though, and real quick, I will say, it was somewhat of an experience that when at one point we were in Bend, might have been last year already, I think now. When we were in Bend, and Sexton had brought his Rivian truck, which I knew nothing about at the time.
Yep.
He brought his Rivian truck for the weekend, which is his day-to-day standard driving vehicle, his everyday driver. And we went out into an open road out near the desert, near the edge of town. And that acceleration, as you said, is
and that's a truck.
Yeah. And we dropped it a little lower into sport mode, did a couple things to get the full experience of it. The G-forces or whatever against your body and your face, made it almost, it felt like a roller coaster and then some. It was very impressive if you want or need that. And clearly, Nate Sexton, of all people, is not out there just ripping around, shredding up roads with this truck. But it was definitely shocking to have that much and that quick of acceleration. Now, clearly, I think the world knows by now, you nor I are any form of car guy.
Nope, never happened.
But I will say that was cool to have him do that a couple of times. Be like, holy shit, this is...
Yeah.
The way you could feel it was certainly impressive.
Yeah, part of the other conversation that they had on this thing was that these auto manufacturers used to just buy parts from all these different companies and assemble them. Well, now the car is a rolling computer. Yeah. And you need to have control over all of those parts because they all talk to each other now. It's not like before, your transmission didn't need to talk to your muffler. They just didn't speak. Now every part of your car talks. So bringing all of that silicon in house to make it's a whole new industry. Your car is just a rolling computer. That's all. That's literally all it is these days. And where they're going from there. And this was Volvo, so they talked about safety because that's the big Volvo thing. But he has interviewed a lot of other he's a car guy in general, but he interviews a lot of other car CEOs, but tech CEOs as well and things like that. I really love the Decoder podcast. The other podcast that I like is one called We're Not Wrong. And it's just three people talk politics. If you that are very, one is more left, one is a little more right, one is more a little center, and no one's too far out on the skirts, which is great. It's very much a center lane kind of podcast. So those are the podcasts I've been listening a lot to lately. And of course, the Party podcast, which I opened up my podcast app to take a look at it, or to take a look at the podcast, and the Party literally started downloading now. They just dropped their podcast.
Dang, I'm going to have to go out and...
It will be my drive to work podcast tomorrow morning. Because it's usually about 30 to 35 minutes. It's a perfect drive right to work.
I will give a quick plug.
After I listen to the broadcast, because it talk about me.
Yeah, I mean...
If the Party's not talking about me...
I will give a quick plug for the idea, and I'm going to say I've spoiled myself with this now, is purchasing YouTube Premium. And I treat it...
high roller.
I treat it, which again, I've said this before, it would be so great, like, if it was just like a freebie that they gave to people with 100,000 subs, or 1 million, or whatever the number is. But like, at a certain threshold, like, here's something that doesn't cost us money that we could give to you. You are clearly a successful part of our overall platform. And I'm not demanding it. I just think it would be a really nice, like, gesture or perk. But anyway, I paid for it. And I treat it just like I think almost everyone else would treat basically a podcast / Netflix. Like, you go out for anyone that travels, you go out, and I love that I just hit the download button. That's all I do. I hit the download button, and I can create an entire queue of all this stuff that I can then ideally watch in planes. And I can't stress this enough. Having still the 1.5 or the 1.75 speed on it makes everything I do so much more enjoyable. I'm able to consume so much more passively.
1.7 is the sweet spot, by the way.
They don't offer that on YouTube.
Oh, God.
It's 0.25 increments. So 1.25. I say this all the time. Listen to something at 1.5 for a while, and then either go to 1 or 1.25. It feels like they're like whatever it is, it's gonna feel so slow. But anyway,
there was a podcast I listened to for many, many years, and you and I went down to Austin a few years ago, and we got to hang out in person with some of them. We did the live broadcast. It was weird, talking to them in person, because it does. I'm like, your voice, like, you talk so much slower than I listen to you at.
Yeah, but so it.
I wish I could listen to you at 1.5
Oh my gosh, it's just so nice. And then, like a Netflix, at least, which is the only other platform I'm really semi-familiar with, they create a smart downloads. So it'll go out and download X amount of random things that it thinks I might like as well, obviously based on my algorithm. So there will be something there. But now before every single flight, I just as many as I want, just gonna start ripping through them.
Yeah, but you're probably doing it like as you walk on the plane.
I know.
I bet you hear the words.
No, now I start to do it basically the moment I enter the airport, because most airports have pretty good download. If I think of it, I'll do it at home. But most airports have pretty good download, so I'll get on the free Wi-Fi, and then I'll queue up anywhere from 15 to 20 to 30 things, obviously depending on the length of my flight, and I'll just queue them, and they'll just sit and download while I'm going through check-in, while I'm going through all the different stations.
See, that's all part of my checklist the night before. Usually, like I'll go through, like, I want to download. I haven't watched these 3 YouTube videos. I want to download them, and then I'll look at if there's any series that I'm in the middle of that I haven't downloaded. Usually, there's like a Rick and Morty or Star Trek or something dumb. So.
All right. So the question off the board, I think just a moment ago, was, hey, Terry, $2,500 round trip to Thailand sound about right? I mean, yes. This is just a little bit of perspective is I've seen international flights from the U.S. Usually around the low end, about $800. I think typical is $1,100 to $1,500. If you're going all the way into Bangkok, they always get you. Or I'm sorry, Bangkok to USM to Samui. You have to get on a different airline. There's only one little boutique airline that does that, and you don't want to do any of the in my opinion, you don't want to do any of the ferries or any of the other creative ways to get there. So to me, that's the way to go, is Bangkok and then Bangkok onto Samui. I would, so that's what you're looking at. Anywhere from is, if you really want to go cheap, like cheap, really basic and really inexpensive, you can get rooms for $10 to $12, $20 a night gets you like a very basic, not too shabby room or hotel room for $20 a night, probably. 30, 40, I feel like that's the sweet spot. And then, of course, you could spend more, but only if you really need to. I think like that $30 and $40 a night is a really good sweet spot. I think you can find phenomenal places for $40 a night, actually. Again, I'm also like to roll a little more low key. Your food is going to probably be inexpensive depending on where you want to go. If you want to eat very standard restaurant food that is Americanized, so to speak, yeah, then you might be paying, $10 to $20 a plate. If you wanna get courageous and adventurous, and you're cool with eating at the million places just off Ring Road, right off the side of the road, in the kitchens and the huts and the camps and the canopies and whatnot that are set up 24/7, and you want to eat with everyone else at 2 or 3 or 5 in the morning because everyone's either up or getting up for the day, and you want to eat like a king for $4, those are options as well if you're a little more adventurous. So yeah, and then $7 a day, $6 a day to have a scooter, and if you're doing Thailand without a scooter, you're doing it wrong. I can't say that enough. And those are most of your expenses. Pretty damn inexpensive once you get there. So it's always just going to be the airfare. And thank you. There was a lot of people that had responses this last weekend when I was in Arizona, and thank you to anyone that's reached out. It was obviously now about a week ago where the news was released here that I am helping continue to push Thailand's Koh Samui course forward with the likes of everyone else that's there and all the other efforts and everything else. So thank you. A lot of really kind and gracious support, and a lot of people who said, like, I really, really do want to get there. And of course, I'm there to provide any help or suggestions, and I can provide a few of the ins and outs, but just come have the experience. I've already determined for next year, and I just saw this last night on Instagram. There's a little island. They're all little islands. There's an island just north, and I feel like they played. Luke will have to inform me. I feel like they, 1 year for this event, for the Samui Swine, they played on Samui and then took a boat onto another island, like a legitimate boat ride onto another island. And then I think with timing and the boat rides, it didn't operate as smoothly as they wanted it to at that time. I think that might have been the year like Coling was there and a few others. And I think there were some logistical challenges. But anyway, that same island now has a 9-hole, like ace run style course.
Oh, fun. Like,
everything under 200 feet kind of thing. And if that's the case, and I found them on Instagram, if that's the case, there's 100% certainty that I get onto that island to go be part of that. We'll probably get a little group of people to go over there, and looking forward to it.
Just swim there, buddy.
I can swim just fine, but I'm not about to make that attempt.
Oh gosh, Terry!
I'm an average swimmer, but not one that's about to go swimming in the Gulf of Thailand quite that far.
Patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. That'll get you eligible to watch Terry swim. It's awkward, but
it doesn't get weirder than that.
It does not get weirder than that.
Swimming lessons with the Terror Bear.
That's right. That's what we're giving away tonight. Swimming lessons with Terry Miller.
I was a tadpole once, the New London pool.
Well, that's phenomenal. You probably did swim lessons with your kids too once in a while.
I went to them. I did not do any of the actual lessons. No, I'm not a fish like you.
I love the water. Patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV, where you can watch Terry swim or be eligible for our weekly giveaway. For as little as $1 a month, you can be eligible for our weekly giveaway. That's right, $1 a month gets you into the weekly giveaway. Doesn't sound fair for us, but it is fair for you. So we are going to give something away tonight, some sort of box, maybe a disc member box.
What?
I don't want to
support us with giving us one of these boxes every month.
Every month,
and then we turn around and we just give them away. I'd like to open it and keep it.
I don't even open it. whoever gets this gets to see the address of where I work, unless I black it out or something. It's not my home address.
Or I'll sticker right over it.
Or you'll sticker over it, but they ship it to my work.
They could ship it to your work too if you became
a subscriber for, I think it's like $30 a month now. It used to be $25, but I believe Disc Member, I think they might have bumped it up to $30 now.
They have $30
It's $29.99
right now. I'm seeing it for $30 on their website.
At least $40 worth of merchandise in here. So thanks again to Disc Member. We love you. Thank you for supporting us and the podcast. It makes all of us very, very happy. And I'm going to give this one away. I honestly don't even know what, I've got like 2 or 3 of them sitting here. I don't know which month this is from. So someone's going to get...
You could look on the...
I'm not going to look, Terry.
Okay.
I don't want to look.
All right, you're going to get something sweet from Disc Member.
Yeah, you're going to get something sweet. So it could be something really cool. It's always going to be something really cool, to be honest.
Not it could be. It will be.
It will be. So 134 people are eligible for our giveaway tonight, Terry. What number are we going to draw?
I was at the 17th annual PLO. We had a first-time winner. So let's have a first-time winner here for the drawing.
I hope we have a first-time winner.
First-time winner and the first number we draw. That's what I'm getting at.
All right. It's sorted
by
generating email address.
The first one.
There were like 6 or 7 people that went to SmashBoxxTV/weekly giveaways this week.
Wow.
So
people are getting anxious. Do anything to get that free stuff.
Number 27.
27.
That is the number.
And they were sorted by...
I said email address.
Okay, I didn't listen.
I know. 27. So that means that 27 is Dan Rebholz. Dan Rebholz. Thanks a lot, Dan Rebholz. You will get this box right here. I've got your email address. You are at the $2 level, so we don't have your address, which is probably, it makes it more difficult for us, but smart move for you so Terry doesn't just show up at your door. You can't ever discount that.
Yeah. If you're on an island and I could swim there, I'll see you there.
So Dan Rebholz, congratulations. You're going to get this box right here, and I'll hand it to Terry tonight, and he'll ship it sometime.
Yeah, sometime sooner than later, actually.
If it's already boxed up, it's easy for him to ship.
It really is. I just have to get your address and then print out a sticker, a new label, which isn't that difficult for me to do. So I'm happy to do so and get that out to you. And I think I got 1 or 2 to get out as well, but sounds good.
Cool.
Gosh, I'm trying to think if we got anything else. I'm working on course stuff. I told you Cold Turkey is sold out as of now for both the Saturday and Sunday's action. 144 total participants. Thank you to Dynamic Disc for being a presenting sponsor here this year. I'm also having the Flex Start taking place on the Red Fox. So if you only have like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours at most on Saturday, the 27th, you can come play in a Flex Start event, which is also going to have it's the 25th. Don't show up on Monday the 27th. On Saturday the 25th, super short, super easy course. It's 9 holes. You play through it twice, and that's how you'll get your 18-hole score. So that's a Flex Start. I think there's like 5 or 8 people signed up already. And then last couple years, we've had like 40 ultimately sign up. So that's taking place. And then just a few feet away on the regular 18-hole course is where we have the Cold Turkey 18 taking place. So please consider signing up, coming to play. Big shout out. I had a good time with a lot of people this weekend. And the event staff, I said, was great and continues to evolve and be awesome. Big shout out, Marty, helping me out with another pair of blenders, sunglasses. I'm no Deion Sanders, but I got another pair of blenders, which I'm excited about. But then also a lot of fun with the largely based Tucson crew. We managed to have a good time out there on Saturday night as well. And got to know a bunch of new people and hang out with a bunch of awesome people. And I wanted to make sure to say hello and thank you to all of you guys. I know Tucson's doing some really good things in the world of disc golf. So, and I got to visit. I showed up late to the poker party at Ricky's house.
Okay.
I got in late Thursday. I had to make a pit stop or two. And then ultimately, Ricky and a couple others were playing cards out at Ricky's place. He lives in way outside of town in northern Scottsdale.
Don't dox him.
Yeah, I couldn't. You couldn't find his house anyway. Trust me, it's way out there. And as I was just getting there, they were wrapping up the poker party, which is best for their pocketbooks, as I was coming in. But saw Tommy Guns, Anthony Barella, and a few others, all Dan Long, all having a good time. And unfortunately, I missed the poker, but got some good one-on-one time with old Rick.
That's good.
And got to see him out. He was out there with his co-shop owners out there on Saturday supporting the local event and doing good stuff. So good to see so many of those people yet again. All right. You mentioned there's some legal considerations considering Patreon that might be an issue if they aren't international.
Intentional, I think, is it?
Yeah,
not international.
Yeah,
no,
thanks.
basically just the reason why we do the option for the website giveaway is that it is against Patreon's terms of service to use it as a lottery. So you can't use it just strictly for giveaways. So you need to, by their terms of service, you need to have another way, a free way to get into any sort of giveaways that you have, which we do. And we have for the longest time, because the last thing we want is to have Patreon or something go against their terms of service and have them close down our Patreon or shut it down. We want to be on the up and up. So anyone that has a Patreon, if you're doing giveaways based on Patreon, exclusively, you need to have some sort of other, you should have some sort of other giveaway, or I will turn you in.
Yes. You don't want Johnny V coming after you.
I really don't care. But in general, that's what you're supposed to have.
Yes. And if there's one thing we are, it's by the book.
Oh, my God. I'm a law-abiding citizen, Terry. I've never broken a law in my life.
Nope. Not one that I've recorded this week, anyway. With that, it's almost time, our imaginary end time, which happens to be almost exactly at 3 hours tonight. But we go when we need to. So we're going to call it. I don't think we have anything else pressing. We want to thank all of you. We know so many of you are regulars here on Tuesday night. I got a picture sent to me via text. It was for the most part clean, but somebody sporting their Smashbox shirt saying, I can't listen right now, but I'm with you in spirit.
Aww.
We love you, Ben. So thank you guys. Thanks for being here and tuning in and chiming in with us and having a good time.
I thought I was wearing my Smashbox gray shirt, but I'm actually wearing my Nintendo shirt under here. Sorry, different.
Few Smashbox stickers were released into the wild this weekend too.
Ooh.
So thank you guys for the support and hope you put them out there proudly. For Johnny V, I'm the Disc Golf Guy. Thank you so much. A little earlier, we had Thomas Gilbert in the regular show. We'll be back next week with show 481, edging a little bit closer, not only to the end of the year, but to that 500 mark.
500. Jeez.
See you next week. Step inside the Smashbox.